Warning, the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Also, there will be spoilers for various series and parts, so please use caution if you haven't finished yet. The opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. And finally, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for helping us to get to 300 episodes. The podcast has become near and dear to us, and we are thrilled to have the continued support of our listeners for almost 10 years. It means the world to us as we keep being those super weird nerds on the internet talking about anime. Should probably reveal what show we're covering today now, huh? Look, I'm sorry for this roundabout way of telling you you're awesome, but let's be real, you're here for the show. I bet you can't stand waiting anymore. Oh, well, I won't keep you then. Enjoy today's episode. Hello, one and all, and welcome to Dub Talk, the podcast where we discuss the latest and greatest in English dubs. My name is Stephanie, and today I am joined by Megan.
Hey guys, there's a bunch of weird stoned people outside my house.
That seems like a personal problem. I'm not gonna
the stone people aren't in this part.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We're not there yet. We have Jet.
I need some help. Like, my parents just adopted a new sibling. Like, he's being really abusive. Like, he kicked my puppy. He threw it in the incinerator. It's terrible.
Oh, no.
Yours too?
God. Oh no. Oh no. We already brought the puppy into this. Oh no.
Look, it's yours.
They kissed my girlfriend.
Look, at this point, it's impossible to talk about this show without mentioning at least one dog dying. It's tradition.
Unfortunately, it's true. We also have Lack the Watcher with us tonight.
Happy yippee, yora piccone.
Huzzah! Alright. God, oh god, we started strong with the puppy death. Oh, what was the dog's name?
Danny?
Denny?
Danny, thank you. Danny, poor Danny.
Like, is it truly the show that we're talking about if one animal does not get brutally injured per part?
Well, remember, Cars saves a dog, actually.
Yeah, that's true. It balances itself out.
Yeah.
Cars saves a dog, but a squirrel gets murdered, but cannibalized by another squirrel.
This isn't really relevant to the podcast, but who's actually read the manga here, by any chance?
No.
I've read, I think, up to part 4.
Okay, but what I was going to say was, what's interesting is that the anime takes a much more subtle approach to Danny's death than the manga does.
Oh, good God.
In the manga, Danny jumps out of the furnace and you see him burning.
Oh my god.
But the anime makes the very smart decision to just cut away before any of that happens, so it's much more subtle.
Oh no.
The anime makes a lot of really smart narrative decisions that if you read the manga, you can appreciate.
Oh boy. Alright, anyway. Aside from dead dogs, Today is an extra special episode of the podcast because this is our 300th episode of the main series.
Woohoo!
Yay! Yeah.
That was a delayed reaction.
I wasn't sure if you were going to keep talking or not, so that's...
Oh, okay. That's fair. But yay! We've been doing this for like almost 10 years and at least 300 episodes now.
Insert the Lethal Company yippee noise.
Yippee!
I have never played that game, and I started immediately doing the hand motions.
I did that at MagFest.
Nice. I love that. Alright. Now, in the past, when we've hit milestone episodes similar to this, we go back and try to fix some oopsies we might have had. As in, episodes we previously had a recording of some kind, but they didn't see the light of day for one reason or another. Episode 100 was Free Iwatobi Swim Club. while episode 200 was Prison School. Believe it or not, there is actually one more episode we previously recorded that never saw the light of day.
Yeah, that's my fault. Yeah, it's all my fault.
Well, the first time it was my fault, actually.
Oh, okay. It was kind of both of our faults because you forgot to record yourself the first time.
Nobody told me. I didn't know back then.
And it was my fault for not telling you. And the other reason it was my fault was because I was lying through my teeth.
But here we are, almost 10 years later. Today, we're going to finally open Pandora's box and cover this last missing episode. Or maybe it's better to say that we're donning on our stone masks. I don't know. Today, we're going to be covering the first season of David Productions' JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that was released in 2012. So over 10 years ago.
Excuse me?
The dub was released in 2015, I think, or something, right?
The original show, the first season of this show came out in Japan in 2012.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just remembering, because it took a few years for us to actually get an English dub for this.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah, I think it was.
The dub itself is almost 10 years old, but the show is over 10 years old.
Yeah, I think how it went was, like, the first season came out, no one liked it over here, which is, like, really weird at the time. And then, like, Stardust Crusaders came out, and Crunchyroll finally picked it up.
Right.
We got a few episodes of that streaming, and then, like, out of nowhere, Warner Brothers went, hey, here's a test dub of Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah.
And then eventually we got the single worst DVD release of anime of all time.
Yeah,
I have that somewhere.
That was a dark time.
I have that in storage, mind you. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get rid of that bitch.
No, don't! That's a fucking cultural artifact!
Yeah, it's gonna be valuable someday.
We'll see. We'll see. For the uninitiated, I'm not going to give a full summary of the show quite yet. Because there's a few reasons. Because trying to describe this show's story is a little convoluted. Especially when we're covering this first season. Speaking of this first season, we're going to be discussing Part 1, Phantom Blood, and Part 2, Battle Tendency. Because that makes up that first season of the show.
Yeah.
So
another smart decision the anime made, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. So I'll give you brief summaries of each of the parts as we go on, because each one has their own story to it. But there are pieces, obviously, because this is a family drama in a sense, that kind of carry over. So we'll cover the story of these as we go. As always, we're going to be covering the show's cast, staffing, performances, and the overall enjoyment we have of the show. So guys, make sure your breathing is on point tonight, because this is going to be a fun-ass time. All right.
Sorry.
Asthma havers, please have your inhalers nearby.
Yeah.
Well,
You need to work on your training there, man.
So this was on my mind, and I was kind of curious since they have a lot of overlap. I decided to look up which came first between JoJo's and Castlevania. Apparently, Castlevania predates it by a year. I was kind of surprised. I figured if anything, Castlevania was probably taking a lot of inspiration from JoJo's.
Yes, I actually looked that up too a while back, and I was surprised to find out that JoJo predates both Castlevania and like Vampire Hunter D.
Damn, alright. So, why don't we get started and talk about our ADR staff? And we're also, because I don't know where the fuck to put this one, as a slightly last minute request by Chet, because it is the only reoccurring character throughout all of the parts of JoJo. We're also going to discuss the narrator of the series.
Yeah, he's still doing it, isn't he?
He's still doing it. But we'll get to that. So we're going to be talking about our ADR directors, our script writers, and like I said, we're going to discuss the narrator of the show, because I don't know where the fuck to put this man. Alright, our ADR directors, we have two. We have Kevin McMullen, who also has directed, the only other directing credit, now to let y'all know, since I kind of was busy the past few weeks, Andrew one night a couple days ago took the time to find credits for me. So these is stuff he picked, mind you, except for the narrator. We have Kevin McMullen, whose only other directing credit is actually Copelion.
I saw that
And
show.
then I saw that show. I haven't seen that dub, I don't think. And then our other director is one we all know, we all love him. It's Patrick Seitz. He has directed other series such as Agretsuko, Anohana, and Mr. Osamatsu. As for our scriptwriters, we have 4 of them attached to this show. We have Edward Murray, who has, from what Andrew apparently has found, no other credits.
Huh.
We have Michael McConaughey.
Of course.
Has also written for shows like Fate Stay Night and Limited Blade Works, God Eater, and Grand Blue Fantasy the animation. We have, again, Patrick Seitz, who has written for shows such as Steins Gate, Garl the animation, and Dragon Ball Z Kai. And finally, we have the one and only Tony Oliver, who has written for series such as Eraga 7, Gurren Lagann, and Vandred. As for the narrator of this entire franchise, it's one Mr. David Vincent, who has voiced characters such as Archer in Fate Zero, Finks in Hunter x Hunter, and the man that everyone seems to thirst for from Jujutsu Kaisen, Kento Nanami.
Wait.
Okay, there are 2 types of Jujutsu Kaisen girlies. There are the girlies who say fuck it YOLO and have their eyes for one Mr. Gojo, the man who would not pay for your meal at the shittiest place. The other ones are girlies who have, like, a desire to settle down with Nanami, the most stable of men, who, as we all learn, has the grip of a god.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, I just want to make something clear. David Vincent, he was Gilgamesh, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was also
Okay.
Gilgamesh, yes.
Yeah, you said Archer and I got confused, but...
He's in a few different parts of the
to
Fate
be
franchise.
fair, Gilgamesh was
Was
he
was Archer in...
Yeah,
in
was he-
Zero.
yeah,
In
was
Zero?
he-
Okay,
yeah, I
alright,
think, I think
alright,
it was Archer in Zero.
Oh, yeah. Oh my
but
god.
he wasn't the Archer in Unlimited Blade Works. That's why
Yeah,
I
no,
got
because that's
confused.
KG Tang.
Yeah.
Okay. That, I forgot. It's been a hot minute since I watched Fate Zero, and I
What if-
completely forgot that Archer and
I
I
Gilgamesh
just knew
were
we'd
the
get
fucking
comments
thing.
if I didn't mention it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, Steph, to be fair, Gilgamesh switches jobs like every other week.
This is also true.
Yeah, in one game he's a freaking shop owner in Japan.
Right.
What?
Yeah, Fate Samurai Remnant.
The Type Moon
okay.
franchise is so weird, honestly.
What if
very weird.
what if JoJo's is not just Gilgamesh making fan fiction?
Right.
I'm kidding.
It's what happens when you make a multi-million-dollar franchise based on pornography. Anyway.
Great. So I kind of just wanted to make this into more of like a general discussion kind of situation like we've already been doing. To kind of start this off, because Lack actually asked this question in the chat before we started recording. You didn't know that Tony Oliver didn't direct this first one? Because he directed everything else from
Yes.
Stardust on, but not this one.
Yeah, I didn't really... I mean, it didn't shock me that Patrick Seitz was one of the ADR directors.
Uh-huh.
But I really thought Tony Oliver just did it from the beginning, honestly.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I forget that he didn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was during a time where Bang Zoom was like pretty swamped, and they were kind of like cycling through ADR directors a lot. So
Right.
I guess Kevin just happened to be the guy who was available. So.
Plus, being a Lupin fan, I'm just used to Tony Oliver directing a lot of stuff. So, although I think Richard Epcar directs most of Lupin stuff, but anyway.
Yeah, I think he does. But, no, it's very interesting that Tony starts off as a writer on this, and then he graduates to director from Stardust and just stays with it from that point on. Man, the history of this whole freaking dub aside and how that came to be, the directing and writing is a lot of fun.
It's so funny to look back on this now, because there was a time when we kind of, JoJo fans kind of thought we might never get an English dub of the
Right.
anime. So
Right.
it's
And
so funny to
especially-
be on like almost 10 years of having this dub.
And especially because, like, the only anime version of JoJo also at like before this iteration, was that one OVA that was taken from Stardust Crusaders.
Right. Famously
So-
with Mario.
It's so funny Charles Martinet was in that dub.
Wait, what was Charles Martinet in that old dub?
He was like the mayor that Dio drives, I think.
The mayor of Cairo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the JoJo's OVA that's never going to see the light of day because a certain region of the world is really pissed about its existence.
Yep, especially not right now.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But like, I think he was also like a Speedwagon like employee or something.
Oh.
It's a Speedwagon employee.
It's me. I work for Speedwagon Foundation. Yahoo!
I wanted to ask, looking at the
Okay.
script writers, were there like specific writers who worked on specific parts, or did they all work on both parts?
So
Yeah.
this is only. I pulled this from ANN, and there's nothing according to ANN that specifically has them.
Okay.
I mean, personally, if I had to guess just based on who's writing it, like, I'm gonna guess Patrick Sykes did probably most, if not all of part one, just because, like,
Probably.
just because,
makes
like,
the most sense.
just because a lot of the pros are kind of like very theater play.
Yeah.
Oh,
nature of
yeah.
it just kind of feels like something he would do.
Which is exactly how you need to do it, honestly.
No, yeah, in this, because part one especially, it takes place in England in like the mid to late 1800s.
It's a gothic horror with martial arts. That's basically what it is.
That's really what it is. That's not to say that the script doesn't have its moments of camp, though.
Oh yeah, but so does gothic horror, so, you know.
It's true.
I
And
think the
martial
best. There we go. I would say I think that the biggest difference in the writing styles that you can see is definitely how all the dialogue in part one is a lot more prim proper. It has its moments, but
Right.
you get to part two, and part two's dialogue is fucking all over the place.
Part 2's dialogue is written more like an American comic book.
And
Which is kind of interesting.
this would make sense considering that at least a couple of these scriptwriters have worked on stuff like Digimon before. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It also kind of feels like an American '80s movie. Mm-hmm. For better or for worse.
definitely.
Then again, part two is like an Indiana Jones movie. For
Yeah,
better
it's
or for worse.
Indiana Jones, but like if the main character was like Bugs Bunny as Superman, basically. That's how I've always described Joseph Joestar. He's basically if Bugs Bunny was Superman.
Yeah, that's Joseph Joestar in a nutshell. You're right. Bugs Bunny with the powers of like Superman or something. That makes sense. Man.
I will say, Phantom Blood specifically
Yeah.
makes some real, and we'll get into it more as we get into the cast. But Phantom Blood, like dialogue-wise, makes some really inspired choices. Honestly, that I never would have expected a English dub to really take. And I don't necessarily know if it always works, but the fact that they were willing to take some real risks with the dialogue really impressed me, even when I first heard the dub.
Yeah, agreed. There are also a couple of other things I wanted to point out, but so the first being that while this doesn't apply to other parts for, I don't know, I guess they kind of decided it wasn't really worth keeping up. But this is the only season that noticeably includes the use of accents, and while accents can be something of a mixed bag, I think as far as like these two parts go, it works for me because I feel like it does a really good job of feeding into the kind of over-the-top nature of JoJo's, and I think it kind of adds a little bit more flavor to it.
Yeah.
I would say my only issue with the accent work is that there are some actors who just cannot keep that energy up.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
yeah.
also, you could say that about the Japanese dub, too, to some degree.
Fair. Like, I think the thing is, too, is that this, like, I don't want to beat around the bush about this because it had come out about the JoJo's dub casting process that for a while the casting process was not genuinely as fair to certain actors as it is now. And I kind of am very happy they cut off doing the accents right before the part that takes place mostly in Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, while I do think, while I do enjoy most, I do think most of the casting choices here are like really good, and I'm pretty happy with how a lot of the cast turned out. There is one casting choice in particular that I have to criticize that we'll get to when we get to part two, and it's
boy.
something that's particularly irritating because it's kind of been something of an ongoing problem. Well, not quite an ongoing problem with the franchise, but it has happened more than once, which is kind of annoying.
Yay. I love that. But no, it's the directing and the writing actually I enjoy it. There are moments where it's like, what the hell am I watching? But that's the whole idea of Jojo anyway. First and foremost. Though I am really impressed with the writing and the direction on Phantom Blood, because given how the story of Phantom Blood was adapted, what was it, Jet? 45 chapters in the span of 9 episodes?
Yeah, they condensed a lot.
Yeah, they had to condense a lot. So
There's actually a lot more young Jonathan and Dio than we actually see. So
yeah, so they had to like shorten it in a span of time, because
also this first season was made for like $12. So
it's true.
yeah, it was a very cheap production. So
Yeah.
They definitely made up for it with style, though.
yeah.
No, yeah, and especially once you finally get the ball going and you switch it from Phantom Blood to Battle Tendency, it really starts to come into its own. So between the two parts, it kind of has its own unique style to it, which is very interesting. And then it doesn't exactly carry 100% to future parts, but it's still kind of a twinge of it is still kind of there. You know what I mean? Shifting over to David Vincent. Our wonderful narrator and the only character of some kind that stays with the entirety of the franchise. What do we think of David Vincent?
I don't know, like, at this point, it's hard not to just associate him with JoJo as a whole. Like, his narration is just really iconic at this point, and he does a really fantastic job with it. I love the energy he has, the way he kind of goes off like a baseball commentator. It's really incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate the energy he brings to the role. I do think it's funny that he would eventually go on to play one of Dio's henchmen too.
Oh yeah, that's great. I
Yeah,
forgot
he plays
about
the
that.
guy who controls the son, who only is in a car most of the time, I think. Or no, that's two different, aren't they? No, he's the Wheel of Fortune. That's what he is. That's right.
Oh, I vaguely remember, but I also never finished Stardust Crusaders. So I kind of remember this, but I also don't.
Right. Technically, I haven't even started. I haven't even started Stone Ocean, but I've read the manga, so I know what happens.
See, this is my knowledge of JoJo.
Yeah.
I've watched part 1 and part 2. I've watched the first season of Stardust Crusaders and maybe a few into Battle of Egypt. I haven't even done Diamond is Unbreakable. I've watched all of Golden Wind. And I'm halfway through Stone Ocean. So my watch of JoJo is all over the fucking place.
Yeah, for the record, you are right. Lackey is the Wheel of Fortune guy's
Yeah.
ZZ. You know, ZZ Top, but like...
Right. It's easy.
Yeah, I've only watched
Zitto,
all of
Zitto.
this... Yeah, I've watched all of part 1, part 2, and I've watched all of part 4, and part 4 is still my favorite, so...
I love Diamond is Unbreakable.
Diamond's Unbreakable is my favorite part.
I think, in my opinion, this might be a controversial opinion. I think it has the best final fight with any villain.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It's got also... It's got a very somber but satisfying ending.
Yeah.
I like David Vincent because he's just, like, forever just, like, bouncy and, like, that I like the idea of, like, the baseball narrator, which is really funny because this is just, like, a level of cosmic bullshit baseball that's going on.
Are you saying, oh, that's a baseball?
Oh, that's a baseball, yeah. Listen, I watch sports.
Yeah,
I
do
watch
too.
a lot of sports.
You watch the sports ball?
Yeah,
I mean,
do. I don't
it's-
watch baseball sports ball, but I watch hockey sports ball.
Going back to the manga for a minute, it plays into the fact that I love Hiroaki, but he described everything in the manga. Like, he was the narration guy. Like, not a single frame in his manga did he not explain what was going on.
So much exposition dumping.
So
Right.
that's why those hardcovers are thicker than a brick.
Yep.
God damn it. Man. No, David Vincent is a delight. And especially because, like... So, I sometimes forget that David Vincent is a narrator. And then I go to fucking Jujutsu Kaisen. And it's like, shit, this is the same guy? Hold on. He's not a baseball commentator in his normal job? What the fuck?
Remember that he is also Sanosuke Oda in Bungo Stray Dogs, so...
This is also true. He is.
We mentioned this earlier, but off mic, but originally he was not actually the narrator of JoJo.
Yes, that's true.
In the test dub, it was actually somebody else, which I don't even know if you can find the test dub anymore. So...
Yeah, it was Dave Mallow, and I think, and from what I recall, he also kind of played it like a baseball commentator, which is definitely very interesting when you consider that Dave Mallow was probably best known for playing the anti-spy role.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was listening to the test dub, because I knew I had already watched Gurren Lagann like years before, and I was just like, oh, that's the Anti-Spiral's voice. He's doing the narration for JoJo. That's interesting.
Any other thoughts on the directing, writing, or our wonderful narrator friend?
I will say this. I do not know if how much of Joseph's dialogue was like unscripted, because some of his reaction lines, I'm like, okay, there's no way they scripted that. That feels like very just in the moment.
Right.
It's possible, especially because, like, given the nature of Joseph Joestar, first and foremost, but two, given who voices him.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
It's one of those things where, like, inherently trying to English dub JoJo is going to be hard, because which is kind of ironic considering it's primarily Caucasian heroes. So it's
Right.
not inherently entrenched with Japanese culture, at least not at first.
yeah.
But it's so inherently Japanese in like how it presents itself that there is going to be that cultural issue of trying to bring it over. But I'm genuinely impressed with some of the decisions that they made. Even in Battle Tendency, which isn't as, like, risk-taking in my opinion, but they still figured out how to approach these characters.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, man, we haven't even got into it, but you know what the really wild part is looking back at these earlier seasons?
What?
That they can still get away with, like, having all the music name references be, like, mostly accurate.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're right, because, like, from Stardust onward, they change all of the music references.
I'm a big firm believer that the redub names of the Pillarmen are better than their initial names.
I mean, they aren't that different, but they do work.
Yeah.
About to say, San Viento.
Something.
Viento.
Instead of, I think it's Santana is his
Yeah, it's
original
supposed to be
name.
Santana. Yeah.
Sorry, my nose is being a
She's doing lines. Don't worry about it.
I mean, JoJo's, it's the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we're not even in the 80s right now. We're in the 18... We haven't even gotten to...
1880s.
The 1880s.
It's still an 80s.
Let's party
It's
like it's
opium.
the 1880s.
Sorry, my sinuses are being an asshole today. Anyway, is there any other thoughts on the staff plus our narrator, or do we want to start talking about the story?
Yeah.
I'm good for the story.
Yeah. I love that Michael McConaughey is one of the scriptwriters. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so let's move on to the easiest way to do this from here on out is just covering it as each part. So we're gonna cover the pertinent characters for part 1, Phantom Blood, and then the pertinent characters for Battle Tendency. We're gonna start from the beginning, where all of this began, and we're gonna start with Phantom Blood. Now, again, since I didn't give you guys a summary in the beginning, this is a quick little ANN summary about Phantom blood, just so you kind of get just a glimpse of the story, because there's a lot to it. Beginning its tale in 19th century England, young aristocrat Jonathan Joestar finds himself locked in bitter rivalry with Dio Brando, a lowborn boy who Jonathan's father took under his wing after the death of Dio's father. Discontent with his station in life, Dio's fathomless drive to reign over all eventually leads him to seek the supernatural powers of an ancient Aztec stone mask in the Joestar's possession, an artifact that will forever change the destiny of Dio and Jonathan for generations to come. That is as like minimal summary as I can give you.
It is the most straightforward part of JoJo.
It is. Yes, this is the most straightforward of all of the parts as far as I know of, and it's not, because the more the show continues on and with the subsequent seasons, it gets fucking convoluted.
I mean, it's called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for a reason.
Right. So the characters we're going to be covering, I think there's only 5 we're going to be talking about in this part.
Right.
We have, of course, the JoJo of this part of the show. We have Jonathan Joestar. We have the aforementioned Dio Brando, who is the main antagonist of this part. We have JoJo's soon-to-be best friend, Robert E.O. Speedwagon.
Best friend!
The best friend and exposition dump. We have Will A. Zeppeli, who is a mentor to Jonathan and teaches him the art of Hamon, which we'll get into that later.
He's just your weird Italian uncle that you picked up on the side of the road.
Pretty much. And then we have Irina Pendleton. She is the love of Jonathan's life. She really only comes in sporadically through part 1.
Right.
But the end result is at the end of part 1, when everything's all hunky-dory, supposedly, they get married, and she has Jonathan's baby.
She has George. Yep.
She has George Joestar.
I would like to give an award for Jonathan Joestar's sperm for being the fastest working motherfuckers in all of English history.
He was ready to go.
Hamon sperm!
But anyway,
the ripples of life, if you will.
Yep. Arena is how we eventually will lead into part 2 with Battle Tendency. So, the individuals voicing these characters, let's start with Arena. Arena Pendleton / Arena Joestar is voiced by Michelle Ruff, who has voiced characters such as Yoko Lintner in Gurren Lagann, Euphemia Libertania in Code Geass, and Henri Sonohara in Durarara. As Zeppeli, we have... So, another fun thing with the first season of the JoJo dub is there's a lot of pseudonyms involved. This is one of them. We have BJ Oki, or more aptly known as this point as Joe Achman. He has voiced characters such as Endurf in Gonzella the Planet Eater, Masudo Kadahara in Kengen Ashura, and Oscar Weber from Violet Evergarden. Andrew wrote a note for me saying, "No, this is the guy in the episode that made you cry, Steph."
And
yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was Cyborg 007 in Cyborg 009.
Okay. Yeah, for those who don't understand the Violet Evergarden note, so this is the character that reminded me of my grandfather before he passed.
Oh.
So, if that tells you enough. As Robert E.O. Speedwagon, we have Keith Silverstein, who has played characters such as Hisoka in Hunter x Hunter, Makoto Suo in K, and Takashi Hayashida in March Comes In Like a Lion. Of course, that one's for Andrew. As Dio...
I'm sorry, you said Hisoka, and the only thing I can imagine is, like, what if Hisoka and Speedwagon saw each other, and the exact thing that my brain went, even Speedwagon is afraid.
Mr. Joestar, I think this fella's a paedophile.
Shit. As good old Dio Brando, from start to finish, And when I say finish, I mean throughout the course of the franchise, because Dio comes back again. We have one of our scriptwriters and one of our directors, good old Patrick Seitz. Patrick has voiced characters such as Kenpachi Zakurai in Bleach, Loxus Dreyer in Fairy Tail, and Uvogin in Hunter x Hunter. And as Jonathan Joestar, we have Johnny Young Bosch, another Jojo, if as it were, who has voiced characters like Ichigo Kurosaki in Bleach, Rosayu in Gurren Lagann, and Vashta Stampede in Trigun. Of all these credits are 100% Andrew's doing.
Yeah.
Because I've not seen Gurren Lagann, and I haven't finished Hunter x Hunter, and I have not seen March comes in like a lion.
And Lelouch, obviously.
Before we get into things, there was one thing I wanted to mention just because I thought it was funny.
Okay.
So in part one we have Dio's 3-year-old like terrible dad who is Dario Brenda, who is voiced by
Dario.
Yeah, who is voiced by Steve Kramer. You want to know who else Steve Kramer plays in JoJo's?
Who?
God, who?
Kira's dad in part 4.
God damn it.
Love that.
That's really interesting, actually. But also, shout out to Mark Dereisen as George Joestar. So
Yes, as Jonathan's dad.
Yep.
No, as George, the son. Sorry, the son.
No. He plays George Joestar the first.
Oh, he does.
So he's the dad.
Yeah, he's the dad. That's definitely the Mark Dereisen.
He's also one of the best in the dub. Just putting that out there. So.
Oh, he was phenomenal. Papa Joestar was phenomenal. Anyway, so I will say this, because we're not necessarily going to be talking about them more in part 2. If we want to talk about them a little bit more, we can. Both Speedwagon and Erida do continue on into part 2, but as older versions of themselves. By that point, Erina is Erina Joestar. Not Erina Pendleton. And Speedwagon has the Speedwagon Foundation, is an oil tycoon, and uses his money for philanthropic efforts for science and medicine.
I think my favorite bit of JoJo's is that like the Speedwagon Foundation is around just like until part 6, which is that's a nice touch.
Also, the Speedwagon Foundation was actually started because Jonathan wanted to be an archaeologist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a really cool detail that I learned later on. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
I'd like to point out that I genuinely, like, this is just going to be a compliment from Michelle Ruff through her whole performance, is that I like how she ages her voice as Irina ages.
Yes.
From the little girl who, let's face it, does probably one of the most Chad things in the whole series.
She Irina famously is the first person in the entire franchise to stand up to Dio.
Yeah. He forcefully kisses her and brags about stealing her first kiss, so she immediately bends down and starts using muddy water to clean off her lips.
Yeah.
And it is possibly the biggest fuck you that Dio gets his entire life, which is it's just saying a lot, seeing as, you know, he gets beheaded.
Right.
Yeah.
And just, like, I also, like, I don't know if it's, let's be real, it's probably because this show was made on a shoestring budget back in the day. But Parko's sister looks exactly like her, and she bitch slaps Dio.
Yeah, that was... Well, okay, this is something we can get into in part 2, but at the time, I didn't realize that the photographer that Joseph saves wasn't Suzy Q. And I know that's weird.
I forgot that too.
I know that's weird, but I listened to it in Japanese the first time, so it didn't register to me that those were two different characters. So
no, yeah, I when I was rewatching it, I'm like, wait, that's Suzy Q, right? And then later on, when we get to Italy, and they're like, no, this is Suzy Q. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
No. But like, just like Parko's sister, just also like, you know, bitch slaps Dio for being a piece of shit.
I love it.
But yeah, the other thing I like about Irina too is that, like, she never stops waiting for Jonathan to become a good, like, the best man he can be.
Yeah.
Including, like, nursing him back to health after he became a human hot dog. He's got the beef. Or, like, you know, him just Or, him running off with this weird Italian man on the side of the road.
Right.
So I genuinely really liked Michelle Ruff's performance. It's a shame that she doesn't get to be around more often, and I like the parts where she's older Irina too.
Yeah.
Including her doing my favorite thing that anybody does to Joseph in the entire show, which is bonking him with her umbrella because Joseph had the gall to ask if Speedwagon was gay for Grandpa.
Oh, see, I always thought he was asking her if she and Speedwagon porked.
No. I took it as, because he's like, so was he more than Grandpa's best friend? And I took it as, did he and Grandpa bone, not did you and him bone.
Oh.
Well, but he does make a comment about how she's a widowed single lady again, though.
Yeah, she never remarried, but I always took it as him asking if Grandpa was bisexual, which I guess is just me.
I mean,
and then
Dio definitely is, but
Dio's sexuality is yes.
The only thing Dio is really sexually attracted to is himself. So
yeah,
it's
true. It's all about Dio.
That's why Dio's not allowed in the polycule. But no, and then I don't know what to say about Keitha Speedwagon in that REO Speedwagon exists to be the world's greatest plot fairy.
He is the exposition dump for all of part 1.
I genuinely, and this is, besides Pat Seitz's Dio, I genuinely think Keith Silverstein as Speedwagon is the best part of the part 1 dub.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he absolutely nails it.
He nails such subtle moments for Speedwagon, which I know there's an irony in me saying that about Speedwagon, but the scene where he grills Dio, is genuinely great. He does a great job with that. The moment where he says, "Allow me to elucidate you." It's that's great. That's such excellent use of Speedwagon's character.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's great. Yeah, Speedwagon is definitely one of my favorite characters in part 1. The other is fucking Dio, but we'll get to that. No, I enjoy, and to Megan's point with Erina, he manages when it gets to older Speedwagon in part 2. It's not a drastic aging up, but it's enough of a little change to make it work, and it's more subtle. The Speedwagon in part 2 at times is a bit more tired and exhausted with everything. So how the tone shifts a little bit as he ages, it's subtle and distinct enough that I think it works, and it helps distinguish both younger Speedwagon and the older Speedwagon between the two parts pretty well.
I mean, to be fair, I also would be tired if I was in a room with Strawheim for even a minute.
Yeah,
this is true. So, getting back to Erina for a second, I did enjoy her a lot in part 1. I thought Michelle did I thought Michelle did a pretty good job making her, sound very sweet and supportive while, also taking it to Dio. But I also really liked her a lot in part 2 where, where, she's older, wiser, kind of does a good job of playing a certain grandma, to which shout out to both Michelle's performance and also just just Hiroaki's writing in general for what is, to me, probably one of my favorite bits in part 2 where her, Smokey, and Joseph are in a restaurant and some dude is being racist or Smokey, and she, despite being an old British lady, she sees this, immediately sticks Joseph on the guy. I'm you know what? She's good people.
Hiroaki was one of the better mangaka at writing women during his time, honestly. So
yeah, the only thing that could nerf him was Jump's editors.
Right.
Why don't we talk about our Italian friend Zeppeli?
Yeah.
Because the Zeppeli family is the other family, at least for season 1, that overarches a little bit, because we'll obviously get to part 2 and we'll get to his grandson Caesar in a little bit. But as for Will, Will is Will is
he's a dandy. That's how
He's
you...
a dandy. That's the right word I want. He's a dandy.
He's literally a roadside dandy because he meets them on the roadside.
It's true. I was just looking through my notes. I'm trying to find my notes about him. He has so much fun. It's a fun mentor role is what this ends up being. Primarily to Jonathan, but to an extent to Speedwagon too. Even though Speedwagon is not learning how to use Hamon or anything like that. Hamon, for those who don't know, because this is never going to come up again after season 1. Weirdly enough.
Not true. Old Joseph does use Hamon a couple times.
Oh, this is what happens when I don't finish Stardust Crusaders.
And also there's the spin in the reboot universe, which is kind of basically Hamon. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Hamon is essentially this life energy, this power that is used through breathing. And it becomes the main power used for fights in part 1 and part 2.
I feel like a very famous Sonic song can sum up how Hamon works, which is, "Can you feel the sunshine?" As it brightens up your day.
But anyway, Joe Achman as Will Zeppeli, it's a fun mentor role that also has this fun little pep to it. The dandy comment is a great comparison. The tone of voice, aside from it being this Italian dandy of sorts, it makes it so much more fun because he seems like this generic martial artist kind of guy too, if that makes sense. And it's such a fun contrast to what we have with Jonathan Speedwagon.
There's something really interesting about Zeppeli that Hiroaki talked about in interviews. He deliberately wanted Zeppeli to feel like a younger kind of guy for a mentor, because mentors in manga were typically really old dudes, like Roshi, obviously, and guys like that. But he wanted someone who looked younger, who looked like he could still fight and still be strong in a fight.
Because Zeppeli is probably not even, he's definitely not pushing 50. He's probably, in his
No, he is old.
40s,
it's just the Hamon keeps him young.
He's old.
Right.
Because he does mention right before he bites it that he did have a family when he was younger. So
Oh, you're right. And they also bring the fact up again that Hamon can make you look younger, and we bring it up again with Lisa.
Also, you see him literally aging as he dies.
Yep.
That's true.
When he passes his Hamon to Jonathan,
You right.
But, sorry.
You right. But Zeppeli is a fucking bro, man.
He's great.
I love him.
Joel Achman, when he does those big grandiose speeches, he just nails it. It is so much fun to listen to him. Like the whole, would you say that an insect is brave for hiding, or whatever he says? Basically, it's a great moment.
Yeah.
I think for me, my favorite moment with Zeppeli is the parts where they're in the tunnel fighting Jack the Ripper, and he's just like, "All right, Jonathan, go on.
Yeah.
Have fun."
And Speedwagon's like, "The fuck, buddy?" And he goes, No, he's got this.
He's got to learn. If he doesn't learn now, he's dead.
And one of his lines is a great testament to some of the great risks that this dub took, where the famous "Hey baby" is translated to "Hey bambino."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because a lot of, especially with part 1, a lot of the scripting work kind of stays in line with the late 19th century English kind of speech and prose, which works very, very nice. Oh, well, he's Italian too. Same idea. You know what I mean. But no, Joe Achman is a delight. He just has this little pep to his step, and it makes for a fun and interesting dynamic between him, Johnny, and Keith, their little trio. Because Zeppeli doesn't come in until, I think, episode 5?
Yeah.
5, about halfway through part 1.
Yeah, because part 1's only 9 episodes long out of the 2 parts.
Yeah.
And he kind of shows up and it just very much just throws Jonathan into, well, we're training now and stuff. And I think the thing that I like too, and this is just a compliment to both I think Araki's writing and the scriptwriters taking notice of the material that he's working on. He has a lot more pleasant sounding and approachable sounding than, say, his grandson Caesar is.
Yeah. Oh, Caesar. Caesar, who was ironically enough one of my favorite secondary characters in the franchise.
Ladies love Caesar. He's the Trunks of Jojo.
I'm the exception to this.
See, for the longest time, Caesar was my favorite secondary JoJo character, and then I watched Golden Wind, and then you have Bucciarati, and I'm like,
Right.
no, this bitch wins everything for me.
See, here's my thing. I'll get more of it into part 2. I'm not the biggest fan of Caesar.
Oh, okay.
No, rewatching.
I'm sorry.
rewatching it
My
is a bit of an
golden
asshole.
standard for like secondary, like to the hero JoJo's voice is, I fucking love Okuyasu's dumbass.
Right. Well, okay. And of course, Okuyasu
Koichi.
created out of that was Kuwabara, obviously for the
Yeah.
Rock show. So,
It's amazing.
Yes.
but oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Just continuing with what's been said about Joe Aquin, I really do like the energy he has to his voice, the swagger, the way he does all the really dramatic speeches. I really love his energy. And then there's one other thing I appreciated, I know it's kind of like, okay, it's one of those things where, okay, no, it's probably not intentionally. There's no way they didn't do it intentionally, but it's still just wild they got away with it. And it's something I also really appreciate about the dub script, which is when Zeppeli bites it. And specifically,
Yeah.
specifically like right after he gets cut into and he's like about to die and passes his helmet out to Jojo, and like credit to Joe Awkward for saying this line like entirely sincerely. Jojo, you simply must keep yourself together.
Yeah. For as hammy as this series is and how deliberately corny it is, it actually does death scenes surprisingly well.
It really
Oh yeah, look,
does.
100%. Like I was close to tearing up on the boat when it was on the boat with Irina saying goodbye to Jonathan.
Yeah.
And
I teared up during the Caesar part, but primarily, we'll talk. I want to talk about that more when we talk about part 2.
It's known for being an incredibly dramatic and silly show, but when it does emotional scenes well, it does them really well, honestly.
It does. They
like,
hit hard.
the part
It's like,
where
damn.
just Mark and Johnny tearing out your heart with George's death scene.
Yeah.
Yep, it's great.
Or when the way that Mark Derison delivers to Jonathan that Danny is gone and they buried him before he got home so we wouldn't have to see it.
Back to dead dogs. Oh, every season has an animal biting it. Primarily a dog. It's great. Except not.
Part 2 didn't. Part 2 had horses.
And
That's why I said animal. And also cannibalistic squirrel.
yeah, crazy weird super squirrels.
Oh yeah, also the snake. There was that one snake.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
octopus.
So many fucking cars controlling every living
Piranhas.
organism.
Fucking
Oh god,
the
the fucking piranhas. We'll get to that.
There's an old internet reference for you Zoomers listening.
All right. So why don't we talk about the men of the hour?
Yes.
Let's talk about Patrick and Johnny as Dio and Jonathan Joestar.
I actually have a little something interesting to talk about when we get to Johnny. So
Man,
Okay.
I mean, let's all be real. Patrick Seitz owns every single aspect about Dio Brando in English.
this is
Yeah.
the role he was
100%.
born to play.
yeah,
100%.
it really is wild to think he's been playing this role for like over a decade at this point, and it's
Yeah.
It's like
so good.
Colin Clinkenbeard playing Ursa Scarlet. It's just they were born for these roles, basically. So
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know, Patrick Seitz used to be an English teacher.
oh, I didn't know that actually.
That
That's cool.
explains a lot.
For people who didn't know, Patrick Seitz used to be an English teacher.
That must be why he and J. Michael Tatum work so well together, I guess.
But But Dio Brando has the execution of Dio Brando has everything that you want from it, with the flair of a English teacher who is forced to head the drama club,
Right.
just having the time of his goddamn life.
Not to mention they fixed some of the egregious, like, wrong English that the Japanese use in this.
Oh, thank God.
Like you know, it was me, Dio was changed to, but it was I, Dio, because that's grammatically correct. So.
Yeah. So, thanks, guys. But no, like, Patrick, I would definitely say, is, like, the highlight of part 1, because he will steal every scene he's in and chew it to bits. Like, it is such a tour de force. Like, part 1 alone is a tour de force, but, and again, granted, I haven't finished Stardust Crusaders, but from what I can recall from what I did watch of it, he's also being set up to be a tour de force again.
Right.
From what I remember of that part. So
it's kind of funny because if you really think about part 1 as a whole, while Jonathan is technically the star, if you really think about it, this is mostly just Dio's origin story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Dio becomes a huge character, like a huge antagonist throughout majority of this franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time you think that they've gotten rid of Dio Brando, you have not gotten rid of Dio Brando.
And I really do appreciate the evolution of the character throughout this part, because when it starts out, he's not exactly sympathetic, but he is definitely kind of very fueled by a lot of the resentment he has for his dad, and I feel like Patrick does a really good job of kind of getting a lot of that resentment and anger across, and how much he really hates the fact that he resembles his dad. But then as it goes along, and Dio commits more evil deeds before, finally getting called out by Speedwagon, who reveals that, oh no, this dude has just been terrible the entire time. Yeah. And then, after that revelation, Dio just kind of, starts reveling in it more. Kind of says, well, if I'm a bad guy, I'm just going to be a bad guy, and just kind of starts rolling with it.
He becomes, I'm going to steal a term from another anime, he becomes an egoist.
Yeah.
God.
I mean, there's a
except he's not playing soccer; he's playing football.
Maybe this is giving Hiroaki a little too much credit, but there is a deliberate reason why his name is Dio. The fact that he sees himself as a god, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Dio's like, I am all powerful. It's all about me. I will take everything for myself. Mwahahaha. And then he's just a disembodied head. Until
I will
part
get
3.
ahead in life.
But no, Patrick Seitz's Dio is this scene-stealing, hammy-chewing, tour de force. Is so much fun to watch him.
But there are also parts where Patrick's performance is genuine, in that he tries to be this actual sad guy who's really down on his luck and stuff, and I think Patrick nails the lying.
Oh yeah,
parts of Dio too.
Oh yeah, because Dio will lie through his teeth and get out of almost every situation, especially before he's found out to be this evil piece of shit. When they're in their younger years, right? It's so good.
I mean, Dio is pretty evil from the start, because he trips Jonathan and then he tries to poke his eye out.
Right.
Yeah.
What asshole does that?
I was about to answer that question,
yeah.
So you'd be surprised, but I'm not gonna say. I just did. What else can we say about Patrick?
I love it, and I'm so glad that when they decided to keep fully dubbing this, that they kept him around,
right.
Because I believe that the test dub was only for part 3 at first, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Patrick...
So he was cast as Dio in that, or did Dio never show up? Okay, good.
Because I remember, when the test dub cast came out, and the list was there, everybody was kind of like, oh, these are all really good choices for who's playing who.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we talk about the Stardust Crusaders dub for a second?
Yeah.
If you
just
want,
for a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think the only thing, literally the only casting change was the narrator.
Yeah, it was literally because the test dub was so good, because people saw oh, Matt Mercer is playing Jotaro. Oh, that's a really good choice. Richard Epcar is playing Old Man Joseph. Oh, that makes perfect sense. everyone was pretty much cast exactly how you would expect them to be cast. So
Yeah, I don't think, but like, I guess we'll now move on to the greatest Chad to ever Chad, Jonathan Joestar.
Before we do, does anybody else have thoughts about Patrick as Dio?
when I do my Dio parodies, I usually am influenced by him. So
he's now like the gold standard of Dio impersonation. It's great.
when I do my Dio voice, it's basically this. So
Ooh,
Nice.
there you go. All right, Jonathan, the other man of the hour, Jonathan.
Jonathan Joestar was too good for the sinful fucking earth.
Jonathan Joestar is just having one continuous bad day.
Like
throughout the whole course of this.
at least he got laid before he died. We know that.
Yeah.
It's true.
He's only. Oh wait, no. We know at least. There's at least 3 Joestars who got laid.
Yes.
Yes.
Jonathan, Joseph, and Jotaro.
Yes. We at least know that they did.
I mean, depending on how you look at it, Jonathan got it twice.
God damn it, Jonathan.
Wait, Jonathan got it twice or Joseph?
Joseph. Oh yeah, technically, yeah. Jonathan's body got it a couple times.
Right. No, several times actually.
and
That's true. That's true. Jonathan's body definitely did a few times.
You know, I've never met my biological father. He could probably be Dio's head on Jonathan's body. It would explain a lot.
Jordo. Jordo.
Yeah, and also like 3 other kids who were in Stone Ocean. So.
Oh, yeah. I haven't finished Stone Ocean. Oops.
I mean, technically, he might have also gotten with, maybe with Poochie too. So,
there was definitely something going on with those two.
but like, I really like Johnny's performance. I think that Johnny's accent work, maybe not the strongest.
Yeah.
But he got Jonathan's heart down.
Yeah, what makes Johnny work overall, even though his English accent is not great, is that he is committed to the role. Like, he goes for it full tilt. Like, especially in the scenes where he's doing the big grandiose speeches, he's just going for it. It's one of those things where it's like the performance at least is so sincere and earnest that it makes up for the shortcomings.
Jonathan is, of all the JoJos in the franchise, Jonathan is the gentleman. Right. Jonathan has this noble mindset, his honor, his all of this stuff, right? And Johnny plays all those parts of that character very, very well. And it definitely helps carry through the story of Phantom Blood, especially because we are centered around Jonathan throughout the whole course of this. I do agree that the accent might not have been there at times, though. I did try to see, like, with the credits, if there was potentially, like, a dialect coach involved, and it doesn't seem like there's one listed. So it's...
from my understanding, this dub had a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah, so more than likely they didn't bring in a dialect coach.
If there was a dialect coach, they probably need to be fired. Sorry.
But
I love you, Johnny.
To be fair, this accent to me is not the most egregious thing.
Yeah.
No,
it's really not. It's honestly
when we get to part 2, there's a questionable accent in there that even I have to go, oh no. A certain Italian man.
I was thinking more a certain German man, but that's just me.
I enjoyed that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, it's not so much the performance that I have a problem with, it's the fact that it's not even like the right accent, but we'll get into that later.
It's still a lot of fun. Anyway, no, Jonathan's personality and his character traits, Johnny Bosch is able to, like, portray them so well, and his interactions and the dynamic between himself and Patrick's Dio is just phenomenal. The back and forth that the two of them have is just so much fun, and that's the main focus of part 1, is the relationship and the back and forth between these two. These two, I guess, quote unquote, like, adoptive brothers in a way. Yeah, I like Johnny. I like Johnny as Jonathan.
I like it a lot. Again, as mentioned before, the accent work is a little questionable, but Johnny definitely makes up for it with the sincerity in his performance. I really like really like the way he gets across Jonathan's whole like gentlemanly nature really well. And while he doesn't get a lot of opportunities to be subtle, I did really like the way he handled his final scene with Dia when they're on the boat and it's about to explode.
Just that there's something about Johnny's, the way that Johnny talks about Dio, where it's like you feel all of Jonathan's hate for Dio, but that inability to truly like kill him or bring himself to damn him for all time.
That is something. Yeah, sorry.
It's that like sense of like, you are the single worst person on earth, but you are my family, and I will stand by you until you get better.
That is something Johnny gets across exceptionally well, is the inner conflict of trying to be good in awful situations, basically.
Yeah.
I want to mention something. It's funny because I'm actually going to the same convention in a couple weeks. Last year, when I was at Anime Ocean City, I actually got to meet Johnny Young Bosch, funny enough.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And I was one of the few who actually picked a Jonathan poster for him to sign.
Aww.
At least I think I was. He didn't really seem like... He seemed surprised, kind of, when I picked that one. So, he basically said he really wants to play Johnny. Like, if they do Steel Ball Run, he really hopes they'll ask him back to play Johnny.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it would make sense.
And I think he'd nail Johnny, honestly, in a way that he couldn't quite nail Jonathan. Because, first of all, Johnny's supposed to be American, which means he doesn't have to do any accent work. And Johnny is more in line with the kind of, like, young protagonist characters that he's more familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I genuinely would love to see him come back as Johnny. So I don't know who they get as Euro or Gyro, but, you know.
That would be a very interesting pick. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it has been almost a decade since the dub first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it is possible they could go with that option. Like, it'd be very ironic, honestly, but I'm not familiar with Steel Ball Run. Again, I haven't read the manga.
Basically, all you need to know is Johnny Joestar is like alternate universe Jonathan Joestar. So like,
he's Jonathan if he was a prick, basically.
Oh, so the opposite. Of
also,
Jonathan.
Horses.
Yeah.
So the opposite of Jonathan. Okay, now I want to see that. Now I want to see Johnny Bosch as Johnny.
If he was skinny, blonde, and a prick, that's Johnny.
Oh,
basically.
Damn! I love that. I like the sound of it already. I love the
Steel
sound
Ball
of it already.
Steel Ball Twink.
Hey, listen, we'll get to it eventually.
D's nuts run.
And the winner of tonight's zinger is Lack. And the winner of the moment of this episode is Lack.
Hey. I'd like to thank everybody who believed in me. Like, okay.
Just take my Oscar and run.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I'd like to say, fuck you, Academy. No, anyway.
Fuck the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Woo! Anyway, is there anything else we want to say about Johnny as Jonathan?
It's fine. It works for what it is. And I don't mean that as like a backhanded compliment. I just mean like could it have been better? Maybe, but for what it is, it works. So. Yeah,
I think part of the detriments to Johnny's performance as Jonathan kind of come down to how Phantom Blood was, like, how the story for Phantom Blood in the anime worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And also minor it being England, but
yeah,
I think it's more the problem of how they adapted Phantom Blood and not necessarily with how Johnny portrayed the character.
Yeah.
Also, let's be real, lack of an accent coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dialect coach would have been very helpful throughout the course of this, because again, this is probably, I guess, considering what Lack was thinking earlier, this might be one of maybe 3 accents throughout the first season that were kind of eh.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Highlander effect, honestly. I know that's a weird way to put it, but like you look at like Christopher Lambert and all the scenes where he has to do a Scottish accent by himself, isn't that great? But then when he's like next to Sean Connery, he actually kind of gets it. So
Yeah.
I know that's a weird pull.
Yeah,
But,
It's an odd pull, but it makes sense.
yeah.
I know. It's one of those things where I feel like it might bother me if I wasn't, used to, I don't know, fork and subs or things like that. But I've heard some very weird accents, so like most of the ones here are.
I'll be real. I believe there was a dialect coach for this show.
Oh.
But
I
whatever
apologize
the fuck.
for that joke I made earlier.
No, not for JoJo's. The show I'm bringing up. There was a dialogue coach for Yuri on Ice. I still have no idea what the fuck Chris Sabat was doing.
Oh, okay, alright.
I need to rewatch Yuri on Ice. It's been a while.
I do too. Yeah. I bring that up because in our Lord and Savior year 2024, I'm coming over there, Matt, and I will find that movie.
Prepare to be shocked, everyone. I've never watched Yuri on Ice, so...
Shock and awe.
Yeah.
All right, any other thoughts on Johnny as Jonathan or just Phantom Blood in general?
I'm good.
It's good, and I appreciate the effort they put into it. That's what I'll say.
I really like the way they lead into the 19th century England aesthetic and the way the whole thing kind of sounded like a stage play. Really nice touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the style of how the dub was done for Phantom Blood is great. Because I think a lot of people, from my understanding, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, especially Lack and Jet, because they know more about the JoJo franchise than I do. My understanding is, in terms of the anime, Phantom Blood is kind of the most contentious, but because of how it was adapted, and it's not...
I don't know if anything. I've seen people praise how it was adapted because a lot of people don't like Phantom Blood.
That's the thing. Like, not a lot of people like Phantom Blood.
What's interesting about that is, from what I've seen, Phantom Blood kind of got this renaissance of appreciation when the anime first came out.
Yeah.
Because, like, first of all, I'm going to say another controversial thing. I think Stardust Crusaders is the worst part of JoJo.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and not because I hate it. I actually don't hate it, but I think narratively it's the least interesting.
It gets very repetitive.
Yeah, and I think Ventuario is a better version of Stardust Crusaders. So
interesting. I think that's part of the reason why I stopped watching Stardust Crusaders, to be honest with you, because it kept cycling the same things, like same stories every single episode. And when I was trying to marathon it, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm kind of bored. So I can see what you're talking about. Actually, that's why
it's got a great
start
and a great end, but the middle is just really spinning its wheels.
Yeah, the middle is where the problem is.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that I think a lot of people really shit on the first 2 parts of these, especially Phantom Blood, that is like at some point way back in the day, a fairly large anti-tuber made a video saying that you should skip the first 2 parts of JoJo's and just go into part 3. And everybody kind of took that as law. And unfortunately, there are some people who, when they watch anime, they don't believe in, like, discovering shit for themselves organically. They believe that they need to follow who the loudest person in the room is.
But unfortunately, that's a lot of things in life, and I digress.
Yeah. So, but, pretty much, like, yeah, like, no, I genuinely, like, surprisingly liked Phantom Blood a lot. I kind of wished it was a little longer to flesh some stuff out.
No, that's I think my biggest complaint too.
But like to me, my favorite part being part 4 is a slice of life murder mystery show.
But it doesn't spin its wheels. That's what makes it
different.
Yeah,
no, and it has a really good engaging side character cast. Like I'll be real. Do you want to know what my favorite episode of JoJo's is of all time?
What?
It's a restaurant.
Let's go get Italian food.
Yeah, the Italian, yeah. But also,
Let's go get Italian food is like peak comedy.
The brilliance of that story is the fact that there's no villain.
Yeah, and that and the comedy is that Josuke keeps thinking there's a villain, and it's not. It's just this guy Stan horrifically maims you as it heals you.
It cures diarrhea. Sorry.
Yeah.
That just sounds like what's her nuts from Bungo.
Yeah, it's basically Dr. Yoshino. I would not be surprised if Kafka Asakagiri like was mildly inspired by that, because I know that for anybody who doesn't know, Kafka Asakagiri is the gentleman who writes Bungo Stray Dogs. He does not draw it, he writes it.
Yeah.
You can thank Black Lagoon for that series existing because he liked Black Lagoon.
That's great. I love that.
Black Lagoon, really?
Yeah, he's a Black Lagoon guy.
I never would have in a million years thought Black Lagoon influenced Bungo Stray Dogs, but okay.
Yeah, it was, because they had interviewed him, A&N had interviewed him last year, at Anime Expo. And and I'm sorry to get off track in the JoJo's episode talking about another franchise.
You're fine.
It's alright, it's all about pretty boys. It's fine.
Yeah, basically, it kind of does end up coming back from JoJo's, because he said as a kid, he really liked Yu Yu Hakusho. And stuff, but, this was the thing. So he transitioned into writing because he really liked RPG Maker when he was a kid. Ha! And then he was inspired by a quote from the villain from Black Lagoon. And that's why he transitioned from being an office worker to writing manga.
That's so funny.
He's just like me, for real.
Yeah, he was defined by, the quote from, Ibarra from Black Lagoon as, "Our lives aren't defined by work, but how you live it." That's why he said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna write manga."
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how did
amazing.
How did seeing a series that starred Revy make him create a series about pretty boys? But I don't know.
Like, I still think the single funniest thing, and I've kind of noticed this about, like, what people like about JoJo's, too, is, like, the series that the guys like is a lot different from the ones that the women like. And let's be real, sometimes the women are the ones keeping the shoujo franchise alive. The shonen franchise alive.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to talking about JoJo's and all the fun stuff in JoJo's.
Back to JoJo. Are we ready to move away from late 19th century England?
Sure thing.
All right. How about we move on to the year of 1938? And let's move on to part 2 of the JoJo franchise, and we're going to be talking about is Battle Tendency.
It wasn't the Great War, it was the Mediocre War. No.
No, it's World War II.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is World War II.
Yeah, it is. So, quick synopsis for Battle Tendency. So 50 years later, this is 50 years after the death of Jonathan Joestar, because surprise, Jonathan dies, because Dio's a bastard. So 50 years later, in 1938 New York City, Jonathan's grandson, Joseph Joestar, must take up his grandfather's mission and master the abilities necessary to destroy the Stone Mask and its immensely powerful creators, the Pillarmen, who threaten humanity's very existence. So we're continuing on with the story of the Stone Mask specifically and its origins, with the Pillarmen being the antagonists of this part of the show.
Welcome to The Nazis Ruin Everything.
Fucking Nazis. You think,
I hate these
ladies,
guys.
ladies and gentlemen, you think at home we're kidding about Nazis. It's actually a plot point.
Yeah.
So, Battle Tendency. We have, looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters on this group.
Right.
So, we have our 3 Pillarmen. We have Cars, AC/DC, and Wamu. We have... fucking hell. Rudolf von Stromheim, our Nazi general, who is probably the reason why this part
dun 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 dun
happens.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm sorry. Listen, I don't know. I might be a film studies major. I don't remember when Terminator came out.
Oh my god, is that... No, you're right, but I just realized, is that the reason... Okay, we'll get into it when we get to Stroheim. But there's something there's something that bugs me about Stroheim. But obviously, but let's just move on. We'll get to it.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We have Lisa, who is the Hamon coach that Joseph has to learn from, who also has a very interesting past of themselves. We have Will Zeppeli's grandson, Caesar Zeppeli, this Italian womanizing piece of shit that I actually unironically love to pieces, even though he's a piece of shit half the time. And then we have the star of Battle Tendency, good old Joseph Joestar, the grandson of Jonathan Joestar.
Manslut.
Who's also a piece of shit.
Who's also a piece of shit. And now you will say... And now you will say this.
Okay, so you know that image of Squidward pointing and it usually says simp?
I think so.
I just, every time Joseph shows up as younger Joseph, I'm just like that, but like, slut!
Sounds about right.
Slut.
Man slut. Alright.
Man slut.
So, the individuals voicing these characters. We have, for our 3 Pillamen, Wamu is voiced by pseudonym. We have George C. Cole, or you might also know him as Paul St. Peter, who has voiced characters such as Leomon in Digimon Adventure, Razor in Hunter x Hunter, and Julius Reichvin in Monster. We have for AC/DC, we have Chris Jai Alex, who has voiced characters like Orga Sobnak from Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, the NYAV Post dub, Fisher Ness from Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt, and Lord Boros in One Punch Man. As Cars, we have another pseudonym. We have Will Barrett, aka John Demita, who has voiced Silverfang, aka Bang, in One Punch Man, Herman Melville in Bungo Stray Dogs, and because Andrew again did these credits, he reminded me of this the other day. If y'all are a fan of video games, and if you've played the video game, the Somnium Files, he's fucking so Sejima.
That guy.
Yup, Jen knows exactly who I'm talking about. As Rudolf von Stroheim, we have another pseudonym, W.T. Falk, or also known as Dan Warren, who has voiced characters like Byakuya Kuchiki in Bleach, Castor in Fate Zero, and Roy Fokker in Robotech. As Lisa, we have Wendy Lee, who has voiced characters such as Angela Balzic in Expelled from Paradise, Haruhi Suzumiya in The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. As Caesar, I'm going to say the full name, Caesar Antonio Zeppeli. That's his full name. We have Bryce Papenbrook, who has voiced characters such as Rin Okumura in Blue Exorcist, Masumi Kita in Durarara, and probably one of my favorite Bryce roles, Staz Charlie Blood from Blood Lad. And then for
also
Joseph,
Eren Yeager. Sorry.
Also Eren Yeager. You right. Also a lot of things. Also
Small independent anime Attack on Titan.
We would have gotten comments, so that's why I was like...
Small independent anime nobody's ever heard of.
Yes. And then as for the man of the hour, Joseph Joestar, we have Ben Diskin.
Yeah!
Hell yeah! Who you would know as characters such as Bond from the Seven Deadly Sins, Knucklebine in Hunter x Hunter, and Kaneo Takarada in Kill la Kill. I'm gonna add one more.
Yes, add one more,
for fucking shits and giggles. I gotta add number 1
yes.
from Codename Kids Next Door.
Of course you do, yeah.
I have to.
I remember back when he was announced, I made
relevant.
a post about, like, a picture of number 1 and then Joseph, and I said, remember number 1 from Codename Kids Next Door? This is him now. Feel old yet?
No, yeah, it's relevant.
Yeah.
You want to know
number
what my
1
favorite...
is relevant.
Okay, so she's not in this show at all yet, but I want to tell you my favorite thing was, like, so at one point, I guess it was a Twitter trend like a couple years ago, and it was would you believe like these actors play the same actor was these two characters? And do you want to know the one that always takes people out?
What?
Telling people that Ash Ketchum and the human disaster that is Manuela from Fire Emblem Three Houses are the same person.
Yes. I never thought in my life I'd ever be attracted to Ash Ketchum, but here we are.
I love it. I love it.
Before we get too deep into things, there is one thing I want to talk about just because it is It is something I have a lot of thoughts about, and I kind of want to get it out of the way.
Okay.
So we are talking about this character, but I mentioned before that there was one casting choice that I kind of had to criticize.
Are you talking about Smokey?
Yep. Smokey
Yep,
being
Smokey.
Smokey being played by
Robbie Damon.
Robbie
It's
Damon.
Robbie Damon.
Robbie Damon. Which is not great. Like to Robbie's credit, he has expressed that he kind of regrets taking the role, and that he only took it because it was new to the studio at the time. But
Yeah.
it's not great, especially since it's not like there weren't black actors they could have hired. Like there's one even in this stuff that we're about to talk about. Like they had options.
The options were there, but the studio chose deliberately not to do that. Surprise.
And it's only because, again, as I mentioned before, this isn't the only part where it happens. There's also
Ravdol.
Yeah, there's also Avdol, which is So
I forgot who voices Abdul.
Chris Trafalgar.
Yeah, Chris Tagliaferra.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, this isn't the only time this happens, unfortunately. But that's not to discredit. Robbie was fine.
Robbie was fine.
Embarrassingly, I actually really liked Robbie's performance to Smokey, but
I thought the performance was fine. I definitely do think the black set was questionable, but aside from that, yeah.
I would like to hope that we've learned our lesson in the past 10 years, but we'll see.
I would hope so.
I fucking hope so.
Also, shout out to Dave Mallow as Strayzo. He was really good.
Yes! We got to meet Dave Mallostraizo in part 1, and he does make a brief appearance in the beginning of
He's
part
the best
2.
villain of part 1, in my opinion, honestly. Part 2, I mean. So.
For a hot second, he was.
Yeah, Straizo is just like, oh shit, Dio's really hot. I want some of that.
I do like his motivation of, never wanting to get old, which is why he became, a Hamon user in the first place, which I think was really cool.
Yeah, and then he got just really obsessed with staying young forever.
Yeah, I genuinely, the first time I watched Jojo, I thought he was going to be the main villain of part 2. So.
Yeah, and then, nope, we get the pillar gang.
Speaking of pillar gang,
listen. The Pillarmen, the JoJo's anime did give us one, the ultimate greatest thing with the Pillarmen, and that was the Pillarmen's theme. And in turn, the Pillarman theme gave someone the idea to create the greatest remix of all time, Turned On for Wamu.
Right.
Hey, really?
Have you never? No, Turned Down for Wamu kicks so much ass, unironically.
Hold on, I'm gonna try and hear this real quick.
I do love the Pillarman theme. Honestly, general part 2's music is really good. Shout out to Taku Iwasaki.
I guess I'll start talking about the Pillarmen very quickly, because...
before...
yep, there she goes!
Before we do, there is one thing I want to ask.
Mike.
Yeah, there is one thing I have to ask you, Becca, just because you are the one person who would understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Do you think Wamu was a Leomon?
He is. He died first. I'll be real. Wamu should never have been a Pillarman. He should have never been, ingrained in the cult. And, it's very clear from Cars and AC/DC's backstory that he and Sanviento were the two kids that they took.
Yeah.
Because God bless Wamu's heart. Wamu's not a bad dude. He was just raised to be a bad guy.
Yeah. Wamu has a lot of, honor to him. It's a very interesting character trait.
Yeah, Wamu's a Digimon character.
I mean, this is Leomon we're talking about here.
Yeah, so Wamu died for our sins.
I took a sip of water on that.
Yeah, so Wamu died for our sins. I really liked Paul St. Peter's Wamu. I think it held that... I will say, I think this is something it is a little bit of a rigid performance.
It's kind of supposed to be, though. I mean...
Yeah, but it works, because that's what Wamu's character is. He's very... all of the pillar, like, Wamu is a very straightforward character.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an asshole like the other two. He's a murderer, but he's not an asshole.
Right. He has a sense of honor and is willing to be like,
and if he was alive,
yeah,
if he was alive for the bullshit that Cars pulls against Lisa, he would have turned sides.
Oh, he would have been.
I mean, that was kind of the point. He didn't do that until Wamu was dead. So
yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like Wamu's just like, I like you, kid. You trained for a month. I'm gonna let you live. You train for a month, and we'll fight to the death. But in the meantime, have this engagement ring of mine around your fucking heart. And then AC/DC's like, have this engagement ring around your windpipe.
Well, you know what to say.
Joseph got proposed to twice before Suzy Q put a ring on it.
pretty much.
Yeah, but yeah, I really do like Paul Cedars Wabu. Really good noble warrior deal. Just does a really good job of sounding very dramatic and over the top. It's a lot of fun. I also really just like a lot of his delivery, especially like during his opening scene and the way he does the whole "Awaken my masters" bit. It's beautiful.
No, yeah, it's a fun little moment he gets to have. It's great. I love it. Chris Jai Alex is AC/DC. So AC/DC we don't get as much as Cars and Wamu does, but Chris Jai Alex is still a lot of fun.
This was kind of one of his first dub roles, wasn't it?
This was pretty early on in his career.
I was gonna say because I had never heard of him prior to this dub. So
I know that. I knew him for this and then Boris and One Punch Man, and I knew Boris and One Punch Man because I just remember the story of how he got casted in that dub, which was pretty wild. Which was basically that, according to Viz, they had a veteran in mind who they were going to use and absolutely cast as a Boros. But then they heard Chris's audition and they were immediately like, nope, gotta be this guy.
Nice. But, can I just say that, so, all three pull him in, but I think primarily AC/DC and Cars, there's this, common thing where they're, stone-faced and very put together, but there are these moments if something suddenly does not go their way. There are these emotional outbursts with AC/DC just crying like a little bitch.
He did nail that moment. Yeah, he really
did. Well, I would say most of the dialogue in the dub does a really good job of being very period appropriate. There is one thing I kind of not even necessarily side-eye, but one thing that is kind of weird. It's just after AC/DC is defeated and he ends up inside Suzy Q's body, and he starts floating around. He calls Jojo a dickhead.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the Japanese too. So.
Well, to be fair, these are highly intelligent beings who are very adaptable.
Yeah, dickhead's a very adaptable term.
So it wouldn't be surprising that he picked that up AC/DC picks that up, because fucking Sambiento picks up a machine gun and is like, what is this thing? And he's like, oh, I figured out what it is, and then imitates it using his fucking, he finger guns the Germans, the Nazis.
Speaking of which, shout out to KG Tangus Sambiento. He was fun.
Yeah, shout out to KG Tangus Sambiento.
Sanviento's gonna finger bang you into your heart.
Watch my 9mm go bang.
But no, when AC/DC throws his temper tantrum, I'm just like, I forgot how funny it is a little bit, because it's so far out of left field. And then he's like, the moment he starts it, and then all of a sudden he'll stop. He's like, I feel better now. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta cry.
Yep.
And I really like Chris's performance of that. Just also he just makes AC/DC sound so fucking slimy.
Yeah, especially with the whole Suzy Q body takeover thing. It's great. And then the boys are like, I can't hit a girl. I don't want to hit a girl. Don't make me.
And they're like, and then it's like, wait a second, we can do the thing we did with the oil. Get the fuck out of my girl.
Bitch, get out of here. Goodbye, ACDC. Disembodied brain just trying to crawl around. God damn.
Hey, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really do wish Chris Jayouts was in more things, but I really liked him here.
No, yeah, he's a delight. He's a delight.
And then there was Cars.
Then there's this asshole.
Okay,
Oh,
so the one moment in this show that I genuinely don't like, and this is like my least favorite part of part 2,
okay,
is this entire very, very, like, dramatic sequence where, for no reason at all, Lisa just doesn't get to fight fair because the Jump Riders are assholes and we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
So Cars takes her legs and for no reason just starts playing guitar on them. And it just is the most out there fucking scene in the whole show.
You know that was ad-libbed, right?
Really?
In the original Japanese, it was ad-libbed. Originally, he was supposed to actually say dialogue, but the seiyuu was just playing around, just pretending to make guitar noises.
To which, as awkward as that moment is, I definitely will give John credit because he actually played that harder than the Japanese version did, which was
he actually went.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna give him shit for that. I'm not gonna give him shit. That's just the show I'm giving shit to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of really non sequitur parts of part 2. And it plays into very much Joseph's style of doing things.
Yeah.
It's just really weird when Cars does it because it just feels really like, it feels like an abridged series moment. Like somebody fucking edited that shit in.
Yeah,
but
and it seems very far out of character for Cars too at the same time.
And John plays Cars like the biggest fucking asshole on planet Earth. Like, he somehow plays him as more of an asshole than Patrick does Dio.
Yeah.
And I genuinely love that he dies, not because anything on Earth could take him out, but because they just shoot him into space.
I said this earlier in our Twitter chat, is I forgot how fucking convoluted the last parts of that final battle with Cars are. Cars fights Lisa, is a dick and cheats her out of a fair fight. He ties up her legs with a rope and forces Joseph to basically hold on to her. And then he falls to the ground, is spiked, but has the stone mask and the stone, so he becomes the god, basically, and can withstand sunlight. He chases after Joseph after he flies off in a plane, goes to a volcano, is tossed into a volcano, somehow survives, and then the only way for him to, die is him getting launched into the fucking stratosphere. So, I forgot how convoluted that last battle was with Cars, and I'm like, what the fuck? And it's like, okay, this is what I'm here for Jojo. I should have expected that. But no, John was a fucking slimy dickweed.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things where throughout the entirety of that fight, you could probably just feel Hiroaki going, "Oh man, how do I make this guy lose?"
Yeah, yeah. How do I make effectively a god lose? Like, how does that work? It's so fun, and John Demita is just a goddamn delight as Cars. It's so good. It has, similar to primarily Wamu, I would say, it has the tone of this noble being of sorts, but unlike Wamu, he has zero honor and will stab you in the back like a dick. And it's so funny that Andrew reminded me that he's also So Sejima in Eye of the Somnium Files, because Jen already knows this. Megan, you haven't played Eye of the Somnium Files before, right?
Not yet.
No.
So,
I own it. I haven't finished it.
John Demita plays a slimy-ass politician in Eye of the Somnium Files. And it's a fucking delight. So, just rewatching Jojo with him as Cars.
Okay, so I gotta talk about this part, because this part took me absolutely out. The fucking piranhas. Just like I like how like even Joseph's like, okay, this is bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm like, what the those
That's how
like
I got my metal arm. Good time.
yeah, so like I'm sitting there watching it, and all of a sudden the fish falls. I'm like, is that a fucking piranha? Oh my god, it's committing to it. But
Yeah. Oh my god,
yeah,
the feathers
no.
turned into these rabid piranhas. What the fuck?
So I messaged one of my friends, and I'm like, the piranha bit's taking me out. And I messaged my friend Getter, and he goes, oh, yo, I love that part of Cobra.
Man, the worst part is that is actually not the weirdest thing to rain down for this guys in JoJo's.
Absolutely not. Nor would it.
Just everything that the bullshit Cars pulls once he becomes that, like, all-powerful being after he gets what he wants, and now he can, like, walk in the daylight and all that shit. Just the bullshit he's able to pull.
Becomes a bird.
He becomes a bird. He has piranhas. He has octopus. He creates a cannibalistic squirrel. He uses, like, I guess, like, clams and shit as an armor. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit he pulls?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's insane. And then it's like, how do I get rid of this bitch? Okay, launch him into the stratosphere. Goodbye!
When in doubt, yeet him out.
Yep. Yeet that fucker out. It's great. Any more thoughts on our wonderful Pillarmen?
I think they all did really well, honestly.
Yeah, I liked all three of them a lot. I like all three of them a lot. They were pretty fun casting choices. Especially since at the time, John DeMita was... I mean, he'd been around for a while, but he wasn't doing, like, a lot of stuff frequently, so I wasn't kind of surprised to see him here.
Do we want to talk about the Germans? Or maybe the Terminator?
Well,
I don't know which it is anymore.
This is what I wanted to talk about, was the fact that I don't know why, but for some reason his accent sounds Austrian.
Sounds like Schwarzenegger a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I was always just like, he knows that Schwarzenegger's not German, right? But you bringing up the whole Terminator aspect of it made me think, wait, was that like a deliberate choice?
Probably.
It's possible. Because, okay.
It 100% felt like a Schwarzenegger impression, so that was definitely intentional.
Yeah.
I will say this, though, like, bless Dan Warren's heart, he could not keep it up the whole way through.
I found it hilarious, because it's like, so Stroheim, we said earlier, he's a Nazi. He's the reason why this shit's going on for part 2 for most of this. But, the man ends up dying, partway through, because San Biento takes over his fucking body, and Stroheim decides, I'm gonna blow myself up. And then you think we're kidding about the Terminator aspect, right? He comes back as primarily this mechanical thing. He comes back as the fucking Terminator, essentially. So, it's not... You think we're joking around with the Terminator reference. It's a fucking thing.
To be sure, is one thing I wanted to bring up because it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's mostly because, like, when the series ends, you get, like, a whole, little bit of vignettes about what happened to all the characters after part 2. It's like everyone else went on to live, relatively happy lives, fulfill their dreams. Stroheim ended up fighting in the Battle of Stalingrad, to which I found an extremely funny tweet about that I think is just really beautiful from Lost Thief, which is basically fell out of my chair imagining this guy getting gunned down by one of those groups of teenage Russian girls who banned turret guns during the invasion of Stalingrad.
Yup. Suck it, bitch. Suck it, bitch. It's great. But no, oh my god. Dan Warren is the one that chews up the scenery in this part, I would say. Because of, like, the weird-ass nature of whatever accent he's pulling out of himself right now. Like...
I have a hot take.
Okay.
I found Dan Warren's accent a little more grating than a lot of people find Bryce's.
Really?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because Dan just could not keep up with Stroheim's character.
Okay. Interesting.
Like, I think he does a pretty okay job, but just like Strawheim is, unfortunately, for better or for worse, a very high-energy character who is, frankly, the weird Indiana Jones Nazi. He's wacky and stupid. And for some reason, Jojo thinks he's a pretty cool dude. And to be fair, he is helping him more often than not. But, like, I could not stand, like, I'll give this, Dan nails how much Strawheim sucks in the very first scene he's in.
Oh, yeah.
Which is where he's got these Mexican women waiting on him, and one nicks his face with the razor, and he makes him lick it off.
Yeah.
But there are times in the climax where Strawheim has to basically scream every line, and he is just not able to keep it up with the accent work at the same time. So it's very much like, I was very much having like, this is fine, just shut the fuck up, Strawheim.
Yeah, George, man, it's kind of funny if you really think about it. Like, for as much president Stroheim had, in the grand scheme of things, he was kind of a jobber.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he did only like one useful thing across the entirety of Part 2, and that was hitting cars with his robot arm.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, he fucked up everything. Again, he's the reason why the Pillar Men just magically, are alive again. He's primarily the reason why it's a thing. Fuck you, Stroheim. I get what you're saying with Stroheim, but I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it was going to.
Oh yeah, no, I still enjoyed it. I just felt it was, in my opinion, the weakest part of the Part 2 dub.
I don't know why. I don't feel as much of it being the weakest part. I think it might be up there. I don't know. I just thought Stroheim was a bit over the top, and Dan Warren's just like chewing that scenery till there's no tomorrow with whatever accent he's trying to pull.
Speaking of questionable accents,
I think Bryce Happenbrook is overhated as an actor. I'll say it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people hate him for the sake that they think he's in everything, but haven't actually, like, paid attention to a lot of casting things, / are very much not willing to look at the Japanese side of it doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I saw this TikTok the other day where it's this guy, and he's like, a lot of people in the anime world like to complain that the same voice actors in English are like, the English subs use the same actors in everything. But it's not like Japan would do that, would they? Let's say they're looking for such and such a role, and they don't have a single person they go to for that, and then they show like one Seiyu doing like 3 different roles with the same fucking voice.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't. It's not like they have the same person doing this kind of character, right? Like it goes on for the whole video. I'm like, yeah. People like to complain that the same actors in English dubs like are there all the time. Japan does it too, guys.
Yeah.
And speaking of Bryce, I will say this: like the accent work is not the greatest, and I can see why people have their issues with it. But I think Bryce's actual acting more than makes up for it.
No, 100%. Like I said this earlier, Caesar, as much of a dickhead Caesar is. For a long, long time, until I got to Golden Wind, was probably my favorite secondary JoJo character. As I was kind of alluding to earlier, I'm not the biggest fan with the accent work that Bryce did with Caesar. However, a lot of the personality and those, like, in the heightened moments of Caesar's performance, Bryce nailed it. 100%. Like,
yeah, like when his little Nazi buddy dies.
Yeah. Mark, I think his name was Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
When Mark
I'm sorry.
dies.
Like, I'll be real with it. Like, look, I'm never gonna get over the fact that Caesar's a little Italian fascist.
Listen,
I'm just saying the dude literally one of the defining first moments of knowing Caesar is him bragging about how the Italians and the Germans are buddies.
Yeah. To Caesar's credit, we do find out that Caesar didn't exactly have the greatest upbringing. But then again, a lot of these characters don't have the greatest upbringing.
To be fair, I do believe that if Caesar would have survived, he would have been beating Mussolini like a piñata.
Oh, 100%. I can see it. But no, like, The thing I have about Bryce is the same argument that I could say I would make with Johnny Young Bosch's Jonathan. The accent work is a bit suspect, sure, but the overall personality of the character, the overall performance, the overall like story moments for this character, Bryce just nails 100%. So I think a lot of this is like similar arguments with Bryce as I had with Johnny as Jonathan, because Caesar is a womanizing little dickhead, but you slowly come to like him a little bit, considering all of the shit that he goes through, and then also just making what I would aptly probably call the Zeppeli sacrifice at this point.
Yeah. One other aspect of the performance I really liked was mostly how well he and Benedict played off each other. I thought they made a pretty good comedic duo.
Oh, 100%. They were great.
Mostly Caesar doing a lot of, really cool, suave, or when I was taking the jokes and being like, oh man, this is being like, no fair, how dare you be that cool?
No, yeah. Caesar's like, damn, Joseph, you're actually doing shit. Damn, I can't believe he did that. Like, it's very interesting what Bryce does with him.
I genuinely love that first scene where Joseph, he overhears Caesar hitting on a woman.
Yep.
And Joseph's like, what a colossal piece of shit this guy is.
And Caesar's just like nonchalant about it. He's like, I don't fucking care.
Two ships passing in the night calling each other a loser, and then they became best friends.
Yep, pretty much.
I also genuinely like how, like, even though Caesar's a womanizer, he is not gonna fucking do that to Lisa.
Oh no, he is mad.
He's like,
for
absolutely not.
He's definitely thought about it, though. We'll say that for sure.
He's thought about it, and then she probably did something to traumatize him.
She probably beat his ass. And then he's like, never again. And then it becomes a mom to him, basically. Because he doesn't exactly have family, so.
Also, I think Bryce nails his death scene.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Just the Hamon bubble, and just, like, also, the part where the ceiling comes down on him.
I started tearing up a bit. I started tearing up after the fact, when Joseph and Lisa, like, you have, it's the whole scene. It's this angelic music. It's the how the scene is framed and shaped. You have the light coming in from above, shining down on the stone that crushed him in the shape of a cross. You see his blood drip, like, coming out from underneath it. And both Joseph and Lisa just break down. And it's like, oh, that hurt. It hurt. Why? I as much of an asshole Caesar is, I do like Caesar. Like, I've been reminded by Caesar is, in fact, one of my favorite secondary Jojo characters. But now that I've met Bucciarati, that one, he just steals it. I'm not gonna lie. Bucciarati is like a bro. Bucciarati's the best. But, no, I think most of my issues are similar with Bryce's performance are the exact same as Johnny is Jonathan. Where he nails, like, the character himself and the aspects of that performance, but the accent is not the greatest. And I can only imagine Italian accents are a bitch to nail.
I will give Bryce some credit. To be fair, he did sound, his accent was better than the one for Caesar's dad.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It's true. It's true. I forgot who voices Caesar's dad.
I don't know who voices that. I just remember the character was named Mario and, like, just, yeah, really leaned into that accent.
You said his name is Mario?
Yeah.
Mario's Zeppeli.
Oh, boy.
Mario Zeppeli.
It's Doug Stone.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Doug Stone is Mario Zeppeli. Any other thoughts on our boy Caesar?
I kind of wonder what life would have been like if he had survived and gotten to meet Jotaro, because I feel like he would have whipped Jotaro into shape.
Oh, he would have been a fun mentor for Jotaro.
Jotaro, please get me away from this man.
But I don't think Caesar would have ever had a stand. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's true. Damn.
Jotaro would probably feel like, he's like, Jesus Christ, get this man away from me. Poneglyph would be like, yay!
Poneglyph would be so excited. He'd be all for it. It'd be great. Where are we at? Let's go back to Lisa for a quick second.
Okay.
And talk about Wendy. I didn't mind Wendy as Lisa, honestly.
I actually think she sounds great.
Yep. The accent was solid.
I enjoyed Wendy as Lisa. Both as, primarily as a mentor figure, to both Joseph and Caesar. But boy, can she be brutal. What is that? That fucking oil tower horse shit?
Yeah. But the point of that was the fact that she was also building an army. Basically, like...
Yeah, she's like, I ain't fucking around with this.
Yeah.
You either live or you die. I don't give a shit.
Her introduction scene is one of the hottest things in anime.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Like, just absolutely beating the shit out of her own son.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah. Fun fact,
and doing flips and shit.
Yeah, fun fact, we find out later that Lisa is actually Joseph's mother.
And,
Fun fact.
And, to be fair, valid way of needing to go on the run, just... I'm sorry, somebody killed my husband? Fuck you.
Yeah. So, okay. So, we learn... There's a couple pieces we learned. So, when Jonathan Joestar dies, he's on this ship going to America. Aaron is with him. There's this baby that magically has survived as well. So, Aaron takes the baby, too. That's Lisa.
Well, okay. Aaron originally wanted to die with Joseph on the boat.
Correct, but eventually
and
she
then
was convinced
Joseph
to go.
was like, no, there's this baby here, you need to take the baby and live, and she does.
Jonathan's like, you gotta fucking go. But, Lisa is Joseph's mother.
She's essentially a Hamon prodigy.
Yeah, because what ends up happening for her is she primarily gets raised by Straizo. So she learns about Hamon very early on and is, like, a genius when it comes to using it.
Yeah, it's kind of a whole, like, subversion for the entire series as you think, oh, Joseph got all of his Hamon from his dad and his grandpa, but then you're like, no, actually, George II had no Hamon, like, in him whatsoever.
So it came from his mother.
Yeah.
It started with his grandfather, but it primarily comes from his mother, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I liked Wendy. She was fucking hell. She really wanted to whip those boys in the shape.
Yep.
And then Shonen Jump rules did her dirty. Whoa! Lack's like, I'm ready to go around her too. Sign
Listen,
me up.
Lack dipping himself in the oil to get ready.
Looks like it's time to oil up.
Lack's like, I'm ready. Let's go. Kick my ass, Lisa.
I mean, I've been in love with this fictional character for, 10 years now, basically, so...
Valid.
Very valid. Lisa will kick everybody's ass, and Lack is here for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, I think Wendy was fun as Lisa. Though, Shonen Jump bullshit did her dirty. With the fight with cars.
It was the 80s.
Yeah.
For those who don't know the story, according to Hiroaki, he actually did plan to have Lisa and Wendy fight against cars, but his editor told him no.
Oh man. But then, I would have loved to have seen that. But then we wouldn't have also gotten the bullshit that was the final fight with cars and whatever the fuck happened with this man.
It would have been interesting. I feel like maybe Araki might have still had her get, like, knocked out in the end by a trick by cars.
Maybe.
Because I would assume the plan was for Joseph to be the one to beat cars from the get-go. So...
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Lisa kick Cars' ass, though. That would have been phenomenal.
But, I mean, Joseph as a character has always been more defined by his cleverness than by his power.
Yeah.
So, I think I could kind of see where a version of this where Lisa does win, but Cars does something underhanded that does take her out, and Joseph can't really beat Cars by pure strength, So he still has to come up with a clever way. I mean, the great irony of the end of Battle Tendency is that Joseph doesn't win by his own cleverness. He wins by dumb luck. That's basically it.
Yeah.
By sheer fucking dumb
But
luck.
the fact that he commits to it and he makes Cars think that it was all planned from the beginning is what actually beats Cars. Which is actually a really clever way to beat a villain in a story, honestly.
Yeah, because one of Joseph's character traits is that he is like this master of deception kind of guy. Like it's a very prominent character trait of his.
Joseph Joestar stuck all of his stats into luck.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, at this point,
Okay. He put two into luck and one into
It's
strength.
funny because I'm kind of playing Fallout right now. So.
Before we get into this, I have a bit of a story.
All right.
okay,
Go ahead.
tell me.
Okay, so I think back when, it wasn't the test up, it was back around when the DVD release for season 1 came out, and we found out there was going to be a dub. At the time, no one knew where it was going to be recorded, and it seemed like the dub was going to have a pretty quick turnaround. So there was a fear that the dub might have gotten outsourced to Hong Kong or something. So me being me, I think I asked around a bit because at the time I really wanted Ben to be. Ironically, I wanted him to be Jonathan instead of Joseph.
Really?
I
can see it.
So I think I was asking around. I think because Ben followed me on Twitter. When I was asking around about the dub, he said something akin to say, well, we don't always know. Say, well, not every voice actor knows everything about what's going on, so it's possible a dub might be going on and I wouldn't know about it, but as far as I know, I haven't heard anything about JoJo's. And then I think maybe literally 3 or 4 weeks after that, it came out that he was Joseph. So
Surprise, bitch!
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I have no idea if he was trolling me or not.
He might have still been under NDA.
About to say
Yeah.
that's probably the other part of it. He was, if that's the case, he was 100% under NDA. So it's not like he wanted to troll you. He was just under NDA.
Yeah.
That's probably the most logical answer.
The legal reason to lie. NDAs.
NDAs.
Yeah. So, all right. So on that note, let's talk about Ben as Joseph. Joseph is my favorite JoJo, bar none. Yeah. He's my favorite.
There's just a lot to love about Battle Tendency as a part, honestly.
Yeah, Joseph is such a fun character. He really is.
God, what a little dude.
Hiroaki made the smart decision to make Joseph such a contrast to Jonathan.
Oh,
so
100%.
So that they distinguish from one another, which is why I like the fact that the first season is an adaptation of the first 2 parts put together, because no other parts in JoJo are so succinctly connected as Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency.
No, all the other parts are effectively like their own storyline in a way.
Yep. Battle Tendency is a straight up sequel to Phantom Blood.
No, 100%.
I would say Stone Ocean is also probably the most intimately connected to other parts, but yeah, it's really that and then Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that I like about, okay, I wouldn't put Joseph as my favorite of the Joestars, but Joseph's a ton of fucking fun.
Yep.
And I genuinely like that his defining feature is that he's a good guy, but he goes about things in the most absolute bullshit of ways.
He's the ultimate chaotic good, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Jet brought it up earlier about one of the big defining moments of part 2, at least for Rena's case, is her sticking up for Smokey at the restaurant. But, remember that Smokey literally steals from Joseph, and Joseph's thing is to be like, I gave him the wallet and beat up a cop.
Right.
Because Joseph says ACAB.
Well, the defining moment for Joseph is when he pulls out a Tommy gun out of nowhere and starts lighting up Strayzo.
Yes. And then the photographer lady saying, I wouldn't bat for that woman even if she was my wife. What a floozy. and she's like, you're a dick.
And he's like, did I say that? I'm sorry. I didn't mean this.
And Smokey's like, yeah, you did. Also, one of my favorite other moments of his is it's towards the final fight is he runs away with the stone. He runs away.
Yeah.
From cards, and the thing is that he's getting to the Nazi warplane that somehow Strawheim also got onto.
Yeah,
like
no
half
idea,
of him
no,
did anyway.
No idea in the time.
No idea how half of Strawheim made it on there, but he fucking did. And him and Smokey are running, and he's like, Smokey, you're my friend, you know you don't have to do this, it's just after me. And he goes, and Smokey's like, yeah, I know, I just really gotta tell you something. Lisa Lee says, Cannon, I'm good! And he just keeps going. And then in the end, where it's like, he comes and crashes his own funeral.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to everybody is first they're shocked he's alive, and then they notice that Susie's got a wedding ring on. And they're all like, the fuck happened there?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's all because Susie forgot to tell anyone.
Yeah.
That is probably my favorite line in the entire dub, and it's a reference I'm really surprised I got in there, which is, you had one job, woman, one job.
You had one job, Susie Q, one job. And tell everybody I'm fucking alive right now. God, it was great. No, Ben as Joseph is some of the most chaotic shit I could have ever imagined. And this coming from the man who generally doesn't play a ton of chaotic characters like this.
Yeah.
Bond isn't that chaotic. The tone is similar. The tone of voice is similar, but Bond from Seven Deadly Sins is not as chaotic. Number one, the accent is there, but it's not that chaotic.
I mean, Kids Next Door is a farce, basically, but, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't he also number 2?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Which, famously, he was not supposed to play number 2. But, I think somebody else was, but they couldn't make it in time, so he ended up filling in the voice, and they just liked him. So,
yeah.
I think Tom Kenny was supposed to play number 2 or something.
That would make sense.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's funny. But no, like, it is so weird because for the longest, this is how weird it is for me when it comes to Ben Diskin. When I was in high school and when Cartoon Network finally became a thing for cable for where I lived, I loved watching Conan Kids Next Door. And then when I finally start getting into anime, and especially later on in college and all this fun stuff, but I think especially when I got to Jojo, I pick up Jojo, I watch Battle Tendency, I'm like, hold on, this is number 1, isn't it? I go back, I'm like, fuck you, this is number 1 right now. Oh my god. Like, I didn't even, like, so over about 10 years ago, I put 2 and 2 together, I'm like, fuck. I didn't really know. Like, I knew Ben was a voice actor, and there were moments where I could pick him out. But this is one of those ones where it's like, fuck, this is number 1 right now.
I had heard Ben in a few other anime roles by this point.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like too shocked he was in this, but it was very surprising he just got to do the number 1 voice, especially since Ben Diskin in general has like a pretty wide vocal range, and like he sounds different in almost everything I've heard him in. So
Yeah.
So again, really funny that he was just able to lead into something he did before here, but he made it work.
Yeah, it's number 1, but big buff dude and more chaotic.
It's number 1, but with a bit more baritone.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie, there are so many times where I just wanted to hear him say fuck.
It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Joseph.
A lot of
If-
Jotaro fans felt that way with Matt Mercer. But,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like if we give every JoJo one fuck, where do they say it?
Yeah.
I would 100% put that fuck for Joseph with the piranhas.
Yep.
Though Jolene gets an extra fuck because we all know that Jonathan would never say fuck.
right. I think Jolene does say fuck in the manga a few times, actually.
Oh no, she 100% says fuck in the dub, I think.
Yeah.
I think he does get one off of the dub, but it's been a while since I watched it.
If Streamline dubbed JoJo.
Oh god.
Everybody says fuck.
I mean, let's be honest. If there was like a JoJo movie in the 90s, Streamline would have absolutely dubbed it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there was that one Phantom Blood movie that we'll never see the light of day ever again.
right. Although I think that was like 2001 or something.
Yeah, there was. I can't believe that movie took on Speedwagon. Like, how dare they?
There's a lot of hearsay about what went on with that movie, but
Whoops.
yeah, Ben Diskin is great. I was actually really happy when I heard he got cast. I mean, I was sad that I didn't get cast, but you know, you take losses. But yeah, no, he's phenomenal in the role, and I'm glad that he just gets to be this really goofy guy. It's really fun, and he really understood the assignment, I guess, as the kids say.
Yeah. He got the assignment.
I genuinely think that just Ben's happy-go-lucky energy really comes across. Also, just God, that boy is so dumb sometimes. He married the perfect woman, somebody who's as ditzy as he is, and then he cheated on her.
Part 4.
Oh, part 4. Okay, so I gotta say this. So the end of part 2 shows Joseph as the old man and gives us Richard Epcar as old man Joseph, and the delivery of one of the most iconic lines of Joseph's career. I'll never forgive the Japanese.
Never forget the Japanese.
Also, the part where Joseph spies on his own mother taking a bath and is like, nice.
Oh, can we talk about Tequila Joseph?
Hey, boys!
Hey, big boy!
I like the fact that he's not mad. He doesn't knock them out because they call him ugly, but because the guy calls his own sister ugly.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah, he says that even if she was an ox in the field, he wouldn't take her.
Huh.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Something like that.
But, like, Tequila Joseph's great. But here's my thing.
Okay.
So, Lack, I'm sorry you haven't talked to me in a while on an episode. So I play a very small, independently run MMORPG.
Oh, fucking hell!
Okay.
And that's Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't know, in Final Fantasy XIV, the first expansion was done in California before they shipped it off to the UK and gave them a budget.
Okay.
For the dub. So there's this character named Gaius Van Belsar, and he is the
vaguely familiar.
combo. Yeah, he is one of the two main villains of that expansion.
Okay.
And if you've never played this, and this is for anybody who plays it, there is eventually a dungeon that you have to run called the Praetorium. And it is the climactic dungeon to A Realm Reborn's main story, because there's a post-game after that leads you into the next expansion. So, because everybody who plays the first expansion has to do it to beat it, they made it so that you can't skip the cutscenes in it. And it's so that players who get it in their daily rotation of dungeons, who are like level 90 and stuff, can't like forcibly skip the cutscenes and fuck over the newer players. They have to sit through it. I need you to understand that for once a day, I get to listen to a 7-minute speech of Richard Epcar telling me how much God sucks and how much he's gonna kick my ass. and I had to explain one time in chat, I had a group that was doing this with me, who was a little bit more memey than the other. And all I posted in chat was, "Stop yelling at me, Grandpa Joseph!" And somebody goes, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, the guy who plays Grandpa Joseph in the JoJo's dub plays Gaius in ARR." And they were like, "Holy shit, I hear it now."
Well, it's kind of even funnier if you're like a fan of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah, no, it's
in the fact that Xehanort, who's young, is played by Ben Diskin, and when he's old, he's played by Richard Epcar. So.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. I haven't played Kingdom Hearts before, but that's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I bought you all of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, you did. I just haven't touched it yet.
I know what I'm making Andrew play.
There's one other thing I'd like to touch on, and it's something I've come to appreciate, especially having spent the last few months watching the Dragon Quest Adventure 9 dub for the first time all the way through. Mm-hmm. If there's one skill I think is very underappreciated in voice acting, it's the ability to act dramatically while doing a very goofy accent or cartoon voice. Ooh, and as great as Bendix's one-liners are and like his comedic energy, the fact that he can also just do a really dramatic performance on a dime with Joseph is just really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because Joseph does have his moments.
Mm-hmm. Like when Caesar dies, just like you can hear the guttural like screaming of that. Also for me, when he's laying on the rock, like, oh, I finally defeated Cars. Like, it's just really... Ben Diskin's a really good actor, guys.
No, yeah. He really is. He's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, so I didn't get to finish that story. So you want to know... So there's another character that's been working with him, named La Habrea. You want to take a guess who plays him? It's somebody else who's in another part of JoJo's.
Let's see. Matt Mercer.
Oh no, it's not Matt Mercer. It's kind of funnier. It's somebody who's in the Stardust crew.
It's not girls, isn't it?
No.
Is it Polnareff?
No, it's Kyle.
Yeah,
it's Kyle.
Okay,
it's Kyle Hebert.
Oh.
It is more specifically Kyle Hebert possessing Taliesin Jaffe.
Oh.
The A Realm Reborn dub is fucking wild, and I would love to sit and do an episode on it, but that would require people to play through A Realm Reborn with me.
Oh, boy.
I actively would love to cover that as a dub talk pixel, just the entire dub of Final Fantasy XIV, but it would take like at least a year for people to play it. Free trial though, up to level 70, in 3 expansions. I'm not gonna do the whole fucking meme. I'm tired.
It's 9:30. It's almost time for
this
bed.
This podcast is not sponsored by.
God, I wish it was.
Anyway,
sponsor me, Square Enix.
Anyway. Is there anything else we would like to say about either Ben as Joseph or just battle tendency in general?
It's just a good time, like genuinely.
Yeah,
it's a fun time.
My only issue with battle tendency, and I think this is just something that Lack has said about just Hiroaki just having explained everything like through the paneling. Jesus Christ, a lot of battle tendency would have gone over a little better if people, just weren't sitting and talking the entire time.
Exposition.
No, just like, please stop explaining what's happening. Anyway.
Alright. How about we move on then into final thoughts on the first season of JoJo as a whole? You know what? I forgot to mention this point, I think, early on. Since this was originally supposed to be his debut on Dub Talk, Lack, why don't you go first with your final thoughts on the dub of JoJo Season 1?
Okay. Overall, I think it's pretty strong. You can tell there's a lot of love from everyone behind this. I mean, obviously there's probably some actors who kind of just came into this thing not knowing what the hell it was. But JoJo's one of those anime that is like 1 in a million. Where, like, especially if you're an actor, you don't really get to do this kind of stuff. Especially if you're a dub actor, you don't really get to do this kind of stuff now. Especially now with, like, everything being isekai. But it's... What makes JoJo work is that there's a certain level of, like, acceptance in the, like, when you get into it, where you have to understand that there is, like, a corniness to JoJo, but that's part of its charm. And, like, that gives actors a chance to really, like, spread their wings and do a performance that they don't usually need to do. Obviously, in anime, you tend to do a lot of comedy, because the Japanese love comedy, and they love goofy comedy. But you don't get to, like, just kind of let loose and just have some campy fun. It's almost like the Batman Adam West TV show, where, like, everyone's in on the joke. And I think it's sort of a testament to how good these dub actors are and how experienced these dub actors are that they are able to pull off something like this. Because it is very easy to get JoJo wrong. Like, incredibly easy. I mean, there's, not to call anyone out, but there is a particular dub from an OVA of the 90s that has an English dub of JoJo that's not that great. Because all the actors are kind of, like, just, like, sleeping through it. But, yeah, here it sort of plays into its strengths as an anime. And I think that's why I actually really like this dub, warts and all.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. Jet, why don't you go next? What are your final thoughts on the first season of JoJo?
Is it? Yeah, I still enjoy it a lot. This is probably the season of JoJo's I watched the most, and I still like it a lot. Direction is pretty solid for the most part. I really like the dub script, and both the kind of like Victorian sort of stage play style of part one and then the punchiness of part two. I think both contrast each other pretty well and do a good job of having fun while paying the proper amount of respect to Hiroaki's material. Also really like a lot of the dub cast and a lot of the choices made. It's really good time across the board, and yeah, I really love JoJo's. It's a fun time.
Right, Megan.
I genuinely really like the dub of this. I think that a lot of people maybe 10 years ago were a little harsher on this than I was expecting, but I think it holds up really well. I think the show is a ton of fun. I know a lot of people like to now just like meme on like the oh my god, it's a JoJo's reference and stuff, but it's very clear that what Araki created stood the test of time. It's why he's still writing it. And why it's referenced a ton and everything. I think it holds up incredibly well. I think it's just such a fun, goofy, campy time, like Clack said, that like you can't not have fun with the show. And I think that Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency are just good, fun TV. And that a lot of the dub is a good, fun time. I obviously think there's parts that maybe could do with a little tweaking, but, like, there are objectively worse things I've listened to from places that are like, I've just objectively heard worse work from 10 years ago. So, I had a great time, and I'm glad that despite everything that Viz and whoever has picked up JoJo's keeps consistently wanting to dub it. God, I hope and pray that if they do make Steel Ball Run, it goes back to being on not Netflix so we can get I'll say this, like, I think to me the best part of JoJo's is when JoJo's gets to air one episode at a time and you, like, collectively all watch it and freak out as things go. So I really do hope that they do Steel Ball Run eventually, and, JoJolion is the next part?
Yeah.
Is after?
Yeah, and then then the most recent one is JoJo's Webs. To which, if we do get Steel Ball Run, pour one out for the folks at David Production. They're gonna have to do a lot of horses. That's not gonna be a fun time.
Oh god.
You want to talk about dumbass pricks? Let's talk about Jodio Joestar for a minute. Like,
yeah. He's a big asshole.
Yeah, Jodio is basically Giorno if he had, like, no, like, scruples. So.
Oh, good god.
Lovely.
But yeah, no, I genuinely enjoyed myself, and I'm glad that I kind of came back to this, and I will eventually push my way through Stardust Crusaders, so.
I will.
And beyond.
I will also eventually push myself through Stardust Crusaders. Not right now, though, because my set is currently in a box. Anyway. So first and foremost, please watch this first season. Don't skip the Stardust Crusaders right away. You kind of need this first season, first and foremost. But secondly, it was so much fun to revisit this show. And just the wackiness and some of this insanity that you kind of get a taste for with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's just a lot of fun. And the dub side of it, I think, is a very solid dub. There are some moments where things are questionable, but that primarily lands with some of the accent work that's used throughout the course of the first season. But other than that, like, that's just a minor hindrance because all of the performances manage to understand the characters, understand what it's going for with the story somehow, because Lord knows sometimes I don't understand the story, but that's just JoJo in general. They understand what this show is and how to portray these characters, which brings out amazing and solid performances. And again, for the longest time, Battle Tendency was my favorite JoJo part. only because, again, I've been sporadic with watching the JoJo parts. Golden Wind is up there too, for me personally. But it might change if I finally decide I'm gonna watch the rest of the JoJos. But those
I'm
are my
probably
two
gonna
favorite.
binge JoJo too, I think.
Yeah, it's only because I've been watching them sporadically. Again, I haven't finished Stardust, I haven't touched Diamond, and I'm halfway through Stone Ocean. So like, I need to go back and like watch the rest of them just to kind of get a better idea of the whole overarching franchise. But also just to see fucking Patrick Seitz go full on ham again as Dio. That's part of the...
Get ready for no accent, though.
Hey, listen, so long as he still chews up that scenery, fine by me. I don't care. As long as he still chews the scenery, that's all I care about. That's all I'm here for. But no, overall, the English dub of Season 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a very solid effort. I think people need to give it a lot more credit where credit is due with what was done with this. And again, as Lack has alluded to, I think several times throughout the course of the episode, it was hard to say if we would ever get a dub of this show.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that one exists and has now existed and has become such a huge beloved franchise here in North America in the past decade speaks volumes. So I agree with Megan. What Araki made is a timeless franchise. So if you haven't had the chance to go watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, while there is a lot of it now, I think Wikipedia said over 190 episodes at this stage. Please go watch it. It's a lot of fun. If you want to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it is probably one of the most easily accessible shows right now, because there are several places to watch it. So the entirety of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, both the Japanese and the English dub, is available on Netflix. The Japanese and the English dub for seasons 1 through 4, that's Phantom Blood, Battle Tendency, Stardust, Diamond, and Golden Wind, are available on Hulu. The only one that's not available is Stone Ocean, but that's because that's a Netflix exclusive one. The same can be said with it over on Crunchyroll, but the difference is Crunchyroll only has the Japanese of seasons 1 through 4. And then there are also physical versions of the show available, thanks to the good folks over at Viz Media. You can find them through Viz Media. You can find them on the Crunchyroll store, or wherever your retailer is. I like to collect all of the limited edition versions personally. And I have one complaint. I'm sad they changed the box art for it between fucking Diamond and then Golden Wind, and they kept it.
Yeah, no. I'm fucking pissed that they changed the way the box is open.
I'm so sad.
Yeah,
I'm so sad.
Yeah. Those first few sets had some really nice box art.
No, the box art for like seasons 1 through 3 is gorgeous, and then you shift over to whatever the fuck Golden Wind and Stone Ocean now have. I'm like, damn it, my consistency is broken. I'm sad. But no, the physical versions, the Blu-ray versions of those are available through Viz Media and through the Crunchyroll store. If you are interested in anything that we here do, since we've now reached over 300 fucking episodes of the main series, hi, welcome to the Dub Talk podcast. If you want to listen or check out more episodes, you can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple Podcasts, where the audio versions of these episodes come out. Social media-wise, we are on, Twitter, Blue Sky, Twitch, Instagram on occasion, the whole 9 yards. And then if you want to support us in a completely different capacity, we have our Ko-fi account for one-time donations, and we also have a Patreon account, to which I believe we do have some patrons to thank, because a couple of the tiers, you get fun little thank yous and shout-outs like these good folks. In our $5 tier, we have Marissa Lenti, Megan's mom and dad, and Michelle Travis. And in the $10 tier is Anthony Brown, Carly Lesticow, Quinoa Soup, and Otaku Anthony. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Now, for another additional thank you goes out to, because I keep forgetting because I'm not used to hosting episodes now that we have an actual theme song of sorts. The theme song for Dub Talk podcast was lovingly created and commissioned by the ever amazing Gabrielle Puccinelli. You can follow them on Twitter at Gab Puccinelli. They are a fantastic artists, and thank you so much for providing us with our wonderful little theme song. If you want to follow any of the other shit that these fine folks here with me tonight do, you can follow Lack on Twitter at Lack the Watcher. He also streams on both YouTube and sometimes Twitch with not just one, but soon to be 2 VTubers. Well, it'll be 2 by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 by the time this episode comes out.
What?
If you want to check out anything that Jet does, you can follow him on Twitter. Oh, Lack's Twitter is at Lack the Watcher. I almost forgot. Jet, you can follow him at Divine Nega, and you could also catch him doing other things such as posting on his Blood Animation Infinity, as well as being on another anime podcast ONA, with fellow Dub Talk host Andrew. I know he hasn't been on recently, but we've been hectic lately with a bunch of things, and also he worked overnights, and now he doesn't work overnight. He works in the afternoon and doesn't get home until 11:30 now, but I digress. And then as for Megan, you can follow Megan over on Twitter and Blue Sky, I believe, and Jet, I think, is Blue Sky, and I don't know if Lack does, but you can follow Megan over... Yeah. Okay. You can follow Megan over at Creator 2, where she shitposts and probably talks about Final Fantasy a lot.
Benchmark test today, baby!
She's very happy about it. And then as for me...
None of you will hear from me after June 28th.
Fans she has never been seen from again. Whoops. This will be her last episode of the Dub Talk podcast.
No, it's not. I have an Apothecary Diaries episode to do.
Ah, shit, that's right.
No, I'm not actually going to die. You will see me. This is just a joke for legal purposes.
For legal reasons, I have to tell you that I'm not going to die. My lawyers advised me to make that known. As for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Lilac Anime Review being spelled R-E-V-U-E. You can also follow me on TikTok. I forgot Lactus TikTok as well. I forget things. It's been a hot minute. I'm also on Blue Sky too, and I do have an Instagram as well, and I sometimes do Twitch stuff on the Dub Talk Twitch, but we haven't done anything in a hot minute because a lot had been happening. Andrew busted his foot, we moved, a lot's been happening in life, guys, but anyway.
I got a new car.
You get a new car. But I digress. Anyway, thank you guys so much for sticking around. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this show for almost 10 years and now over 300 episodes. I hope we do many more. Lord knows what could happen in the next 10 years. But thank you guys so much for joining us, and good night, everyone, and until next time, otaku on, my friends.